Chapter 221. Spirit's Secret Technique, Wei Ziheo's Terrifying Intuition. You've come back just in time. Xian is going to have his apprenticeship ceremony tomorrow. As his elder brother, you can help entertain the guests, Wei Xinghe said. By the way, father, Wei Ziheo asked. Speaking of this, I wanted to ask you, do you really want Xian to apprentice under Ma Gu? What's the matter? Is there something inappropriate? My son has heard that this Master Ma Gu only has a cultivation of small success in the muscle-bone realm. As Xian's master, is that not somewhat inadequate? Your brother is only just beginning to enter the Qi-blood realm. Master Ma Gu's instruction is more than sufficient for him. Wei Xinghe shook his head. The key is that your brother is willing to follow his teachings. You know what Xian's attitude towards practicing martial arts was like before. Wei Ziheo thought about it and agreed. His brother had always been reluctant to train in martial arts, always trying to get by with the least amount of effort. If Master Ma Gu could keep him in line, then indeed he was the best teacher for him. That is very well then. I was thinking if Xian truly wishes to practice martial arts, he could accompany me to the Qingyun Sword Pavilion. I have recently become an inner sect disciple and am eligible to take 3 sword attendants. To be a sword attendant, in reality, most inner sect disciples use them to train their own confidants or to support their clan and friends. This had become an unwritten rule. You, an inner sect disciple of the Qingyun Sword Pavilion? Wei Xinghe was surprised and delighted upon hearing this news. To become an inner sect disciple of the Qingyun Sword Pavilion, one must achieve great success in the muscle-bone realm and pass the trials of the pavilion. It was said that the internal trials of the Qingyun Sword Pavilion were extremely strict. He hadn't expected his eldest son to pass. Shamefully, I achieved great success in the muscle-bone realm half a year ago, and after 3 months of preparation, I barely passed the sect's inner sect trials. Great success in the muscle-bone realm half a year ago. I remember when I sent you to Qingyun Sword Pavilion 5 years ago, you were only at small success in the Qi-blood realm. To reach the great achievement realm in such a short time, however, I was not wrong, your talent for swordsmanship is indeed suitable. Wei Xinghe felt very satisfied. Qingyun Sword Pavilion was one of the most powerful sects in Jizhou, and the benefits for Wei Ziheo becoming an inner sect disciple were self-evident. I was quite proud of myself, but compared to the young Master Lu you told me about, these achievements seem insignificant. Don't compare yourself with young Master Lu. His mentor and he are extraordinary, and naturally not something ordinary people like us could compare with. However, the path of martial arts requires steady and solid progress, solidifying the foundations. As long as you move forward step by step, without impatience, you may eventually reach the summit of martial arts, achieve the status of a grandmaster, and have the opportunity to step into the innate realm. Wei Xinghe spoke earnestly. Yes, father. I will remember your teachings, Wei Ziheo replied seriously. Come evening, Wei Ziheo took Wei Xian with him to visit Lu Qing at the Yuzhu courtyard. Dr. Lu Xiao. Upon reaching the courtyard, Wei Xian rushed in first. Young master, what brings you here? Lu Qing, who was reading in the courtyard, was somewhat surprised. Wasn't the young man supposed to be apprenticing tomorrow? Yet he still found time to wander around. As for little Yen and little Li, Mrs. Wei had taken a particular liking to little Yen, and upon finding out she was learning to read, she volunteered to help Lu Qing with her education. So lately, those 2 youngsters spent most of their time there learning and usually only returned in the evening. My elder brother has returned. He said he wanted to meet you, so I brought him over, Wei Xian said happily. Your elder brother? Lu Qing looked behind him. There he saw a young man with a tall figure and a gentle face, staring at him somewhat dazedly. At this moment, Wei Ziheo's heart was filled with shock. Before meeting Lu Qing, he had always imagined him to be a young man around his age. After all, although father repeatedly mentioned this young master, he never specified his exact age. But I never expected that Lu Qing's age would be so young, looking to be about the same as Xian, just a few years younger. To think that such a young man, with only the muscle-bone realm of cultivation, defeated a martial arts grandmaster of inner organs perfection in public. Wei Zihao's heart couldn't help but tremble. He finally understood why his father repeatedly emphasized not to compare himself to this young Master Lu. Who could possibly rival such a monstrous genius? Eldest young master? Seeing Wei Zihao staring at him blankly without speaking, Lu Qing called out. Wei Zihao was like one awakened from a dream and quickly greeted him respectfully. I've had the pleasure of meeting young Master Lu. My name is Wei Zihao. I am Xian's older brother. Thank you, young Master Lu, for your righteous intervention that day. You not only saved my mother and younger brother, but also rescued the Wei family in a time of peril. Having said this, Wei Zihao deeply bowed to Lu Qing, making a ceremonial gesture. There's no need to be so courteous, eldest young master. I simply followed my heart, Lu Qing said with a smile. Young Master Lu jests. The great kindness you have bestowed upon our Wei family is something we shall never forget, Zihao replied. Wei Zihao felt relieved. This young Master Lu was indeed as gentle and approachable as his father described, without any hint of arrogance. Noticing that Lu Qing was holding a book and had stayed in Yuzhu courtyard for a while, Wei Zihao took the cue to leave with his brother. After they left the courtyard, he let out a long sigh of relief, feeling as if a heavy burden had been lifted. Big brother, what's wrong? Wei Zian, who was by his side, was somewhat puzzled by his behavior. This young Master Lu is really extraordinary. The psychological pressure he imposes is simply too great, Zihao explained, wiping the cold sweat from his forehead. Really? I find Dr. Lu quite approachable, Xian said, looking confused. That's only because your cultivation is too low to sense the terrifying aspect of him. Wei Zihao was still feeling the aftershocks. Although Lu Qing had perfectly concealed his aura, not letting a bit of it leak out and appearing like an ordinary young boy, Zihao couldn't make out the specific level of Lu Qing's cultivation. However, a secret technique from his sect constantly warned him of Lu Qing's extreme danger, the kind that could effortlessly claim his life in an instant, and no matter how he struggled, escape was impossible. Even when facing the sect's elders of inner organs perfection, he had never felt such a sense of danger. At this moment, Wei Zihao truly believed there was no exaggeration in his father's words. On the contrary, they might have been an understatement. This young Master Lu probably possessed more than just the strength to defeat a martial arts grandmaster. His true power likely far surpassed everyone's imagination. Wei Zihao had the utmost faith in his own intuition. After all, it was this intuition that had enabled him to repeatedly turn peril into safety over the years in the competitive major sect Qingyun Sword Pavilion and successfully become an inner sect disciple. This young Master Lu is absolutely not to be trifled with. Wei Zihao immediately made his decision. Inside the courtyard, Lu Qing, who continued to read, sensed the Wei brothers' departure and smiled, a hint of amusement in his eyes. Qingyun Sword Pavilion? Spirit secret technique? It seems that this eldest young master of the Wei family is also quite extraordinary. Chapter 222 at the banquet. In the morning, Wei Mansion was brimming with joy. Inside and out, the mansion was decorated with lanterns and streamers, radiating festivity. Even the servants and maids wore smiles on their faces. Today was the auspicious day when the young master would be accepted as a disciple. When the time came, surely the ladies would hand out a generous amount of rewards. They had already received a bonus this morning. How could they not be happy? At this moment, the guests had not yet arrived, and Ma Gu, dressed in extravagant clothing, waited neatly in Yuzhu courtyard. Ma Gu, relax a little. Today is the grand occasion where you officially take the young master as your disciple. You should be happy, Lu Qing said, seeing Ma Gu's somewhat anxious demeanor, and offered reassurance. That's true, but I still can't help feeling a little nervous, Ma Gu replied with a wry smile. Anyway, here at Wei Mansion, no one dares to make trouble, and the young master sincerely wishes to take you as his master. So just put your mind at ease and follow the procedure, Lu Qing said with a smile. You got through that dangerous situation back then. Are you still worried about this small apprenticeship ceremony? Comforted by these words, Ma Gu's heart finally settled quite a bit. Originally, according to the Wei family's wishes, both emotionally and rationally, the apprenticeship ceremony should be held at the Ma family's residence, with Wei Xinghe bringing Wei Zian to their door to acknowledge Ma Gu as a teacher. But as soon as the Ma family heard this, they panicked and quickly declined. Kidding, what standing did the Wei family have in the county? They did not dare allow Wei Xinghe, the family head, to make such a humble gesture. Moreover, they were merely a small clan in the county. They would be unable to command respect from the various powers that would come to celebrate. Ultimately, after consulting with the Grand Steward, they decided it was better to hold the apprenticeship ceremony at Wei Mansion. At least no one would dare to run wild at Wei Mansion. Grand Steward Ma Gu, young Master Lu. The Grand Steward says the auspicious time is fast approaching and has sent me to invite you over. A servant came over and informed them respectfully. Brother Lu Qing, let's go then. Sure. Lu Qing nodded, then called into the house. Little Yen, little Li, get ready to leave. Brother, can we go out and see the excitement? Upon hearing this, the two little ones ran out of the house. They had been curious ever since they heard the noise outside early in the morning. Aha! We're going outside for a feast. Lu Qing picked up little Yen and walked out with Ma Gu. Little Li also jumped onto his shoulder, eagerly anticipating what was outside. As for the elder doctor, he would not attend the apprenticeship ceremony, and Wei Shanhe would also not be present. Being an innate realm expert, if they were to appear, everyone at the banquet would probably feel like they are sitting on pins and needles. Halfway there, Ma Gu was led by the servants to the main house to get ready. Lu Qing continued with little Yen and little Li towards the front courtyard. Upon arrival, the courtyard was already bustling with many guests who had come. He activated his superpower and took a few glances, realizing that mostly it was the heads of various clans and powers from the city who had arrived, giving the Wei family ample respect. Little Yen and little Li, meanwhile, were wide-eyed and looking everywhere, finding everything fascinating. And the arrival of Lu Qing also triggered some changes. The heads and leaders of various powers, who had been engaging in animated discussions, stopped short upon seeing Lu Qing, gazing at him in stunned silence. Mr. Li, why have you fallen silent? A martial artist at the same table laughed, following Mr. Li's gaze only to find his own words getting stuck in his throat, unable to speak. Other guests by this time also saw Lu Qing. Thus, the originally somewhat noisy courtyard suddenly quieted down gradually. Almost all the guests looked at Lu Qing with some reverence, not daring to make noise anymore. This scene, seen by a few disciples of Qingyun Sword Pavilion not far away, immediately piqued their interest. Young Master Lu, Miss Lu, you have arrived. The family head specially instructed that your seats are over here. The Grand Steward Wei, who was originally attending to the guests, quickly led Lu Qing to the most important table upon his arrival. There, a few people were already seated. Among them, a couple was rather special. With their modest cultivation, they sat there looking somewhat constrained. Thank you, Grand Steward. Lu Qing didn't stand on ceremony and sat down with little Yen, nodding in greeting to the few others seated alongside them. Let me introduce you to the Ma family master. These two are the parents of Master Ma Gu, Grand Steward Wei said. Knowing that Lu Qing was largely unfamiliar with the affairs of the county, and introduced them to him, Lu Qing suddenly understood. He had wondered why this couple, who didn't look like any important figures, had a seat at the head table. It turned out they were Ma Gu's parents. Hello, uncle and aunt. Hello, Ma family master. I am Lu Qing, a friend of Master Ma, and you can just call me a Qing, Lu Qing said with a smile. How dare we, that would be too much of an honor for us, replied the Ma family master hurriedly. It was a joke. On that day, he had witnessed Lu Qing's battle with the martial arts grandmaster with his own eyes. In the face of such a peerless martial artist, how could he dare to presume and address him so familiarly? The expressions of Ma Gu's parents grew even more restrained. Although they were honest, they were not fools. From the change that Lu Qing's arrival caused, the personal guidance of Grand Steward Wei, and the present attitude of the Ma family master, How could they not realize that this young man in front of them must be some extremely prominent figure? They just didn't know when their son had made the acquaintance of such a significant figure. To tell the truth, until now, Ma Gu's parents still somewhat doubted whether they were dreaming, although ordinarily they were proud of their son as well. After all, born into a side branch, he was able to cultivate to the muscle-bone realm and become an important pillar within the clan. Such achievements were enough to make them proud. But the matter of their son taking the young master of the Wei Mansion as a disciple was simply too fantastical to comprehend. Even though they had known about it for several days and were now sitting inside the Wei Mansion, they still felt somewhat dazed. Seeing the Ma family master chatting somewhat ingratiatingly with Lu Qing, the other guests at the tables not only did not disdain them but were somewhat envious and jealous. An ultimate martial artist like Lu Qing, who also has an even more mysterious and powerful master from the innate realm, who wouldn't want to curry favor? The Ma family really had dumb luck. Not only was Ma Gu about to become the young master of the Wei family's mentor, now it seemed they were also forming a bond with Lu Qing. This might truly be their rise to power. However, envious as they might be, the guests did not dare to show the slightest discontent. Even the volume of their conversations lowered quite a bit because of Lu Qing's presence, no longer as unrestrained as before. This now stirred even greater interest among those few disciples from Qingyun Sword Pavilion. Mr. Li, who is that young man who possesses such great influence? It seems like all the guests here hold him in considerable awe, asked one of the Qingyun Sword Pavilion disciples with a smile to a young man at the same table. At their table, almost all were peers of similar age. Mostly the younger generation brought by family heads from various clans to gain exposure to the world. Yet, the young man addressed at that moment appeared utterly clueless. I am not sure either. This young man looks very unfamiliar, and we have never seen him before. Chapter 223. Apprenticeship and Assassination. Mr. Li, you don't recognize this young man? The disciples from Qingyun Sword Pavilion were surprised. Indeed, we don't know him. This is the first time we've ever seen this young man. Another young man shook his head as well. To tell the truth, they were astonished, too. Not only did Lu Qing look unfamiliar, but even his aura seemed quite average. Why then did their elders show such reverence upon seeing him? This was a scene they had never witnessed before. Those with a quick mind suddenly recalled a matter and felt startled, but were somewhat hesitant to confirm. This one, couldn't he be the young hero from the rumors? The one who defeated a martial arts grandmaster at the city gates? Prompted by this reminder, the others also came to a realization. That's right, it must be him. Otherwise, how could so many martial arts experts show such respect and wariness? Looking at Lu Qing's somewhat youthful face, the young crowd felt a tremor in their hearts. No wonder they didn't make the connection, as the elders in their families had been speaking vaguely about the incident these past days, or simply referred to him as the young hero. They had assumed he would be at least around their age, only to be surprised by how young he really was. Gentlemen, what are you saying? That this young man has defeated a martial arts grandmaster? You must be joking. The Qingyun Sword Pavilion disciples expressed their disbelief after hearing this. No wonder they didn't believe it. What had been said was truly beyond imagination. A teenage boy defeating a martial arts grandmaster of inner organs perfection? No matter how they thought about it, the idea was preposterous. A teenage martial arts grandmaster. Not just in the remote Song County, but even in the most prosperous central state, home to numerous prodigies, such a person was rare to see. It must only be in those top-tier super sects that such devilish talents can be nurtured. How could such a genius emerge from a small place like Song County? Brother Zhao, we know this is hard to believe, but the facts are indeed as such. If we're not mistaken, this young man is likely the one who saved the Wei family not long ago. Following that, the scions of the families recounted the events of the past few days. After this discussion, everyone learned that these young people with unique temperaments were the Wei family master's fellow sect members from a major sect in Jizhou. Naturally, they were interested in making their acquaintance, so they recounted in detail the happenings in the county these past days. After listening, The Qingyun Sword Pavilion disciples looked at each other even more bewildered. They knew about the Tsang sect's invasion of Wei Mansion, having heard about it on their way here. But what was said later sounded increasingly far-fetched to them, especially when it was mentioned that the young man defeated a martial arts grandmaster with only a perfect bone marrow realm cultivation.
Impossible.
That wasn't just absurd, it was completely nonsensical. However powerful the muscle bone realm might be, it could never match a martial arts grandmaster. Whether in terms of cultivation or realm, they were on entirely different levels. If there were to be a real confrontation aside from defeat, there would be no second possible outcome for someone from the muscle bone realm. The Qingyun Sword Pavilion disciples, coming from a major sect with their own muscle bone realm cultivation, had witnessed more than once the confrontations between martial arts grandmasters within the sect. Thus, they were abundantly clear about the vast gulf between the muscle bone realm and martial arts grandmasters. It was a chasm that simply couldn't be crossed with mere cultivation technique and martial arts knowledge. Just a small place indeed, where such clumsy rumors could also spread. The martial arts knowledge here is just too inadequate. Instantly, the Qingyun Sword Pavilion disciples made their own judgment in their minds, thinking that everything they just heard was nothing but idle talk. Either these young masters were echoing rumors, or they were boasting, trying to get their attention. However, although they looked down upon the claims, the Qingyun Sword Pavilion disciples were well-cultured enough not to show it. Instead, they continued to politely engage with the country nobles. As to how they were scoffing in their minds, only they knew. Lord County Master, Lord Ji Rui has arrived. Just then, the news was announced by the doorkeeper. There was a stir within the courtyard as the guests looked out. Soon, they saw the Lord County Master and the mysterious Mr. Ji Rui enter, led by Housekeeper Wei. Lord County Master, Mr. Ji Rui, please take a seat here. Housekeeper Wei led the two to the table where Lu Qing sat, very graciously inviting them. Young Master Lu, we meet again. Lord County Master, shaking his fan, said with a smile. Indeed, I deeply regretted not being able to indulge in a hearty drink with Lord County Master that day. Today fulfills a wish of mine. Lu Qing replied with a slight smile as well. The smile on Lord County Master's face froze momentarily. It was the cloth-clothed youth nearby who couldn't help twitching his mouth at Lu Qing's politeness. He found the young man's words quite interesting. Without making a sound, he had given a good friend a blow to the ego. After a somewhat awkward exchange, Lord County Master didn't continue to engage Lu Qing, instead sitting across from him and busying himself with drinking. Lu Qing paid no mind, sitting calmly all the while. He didn't exactly dislike the county lord, but subconsciously, he felt a bit of repulsion. It was better for both parties not to interact too much. However, this did make several other guests at the banquet a bit uneasy. Ma family master keenly sensed that Lu Qing and Lord County Master didn't seem to get along very well. What a shame he was a man of little influence. Even with his observations, he dared not speak out, and so he sat silently, trying to minimize his presence as much as possible. As for the cloth-clothed youth, being a man of few words, he was even less likely to engage in casual conversation. Oddly enough, the most important table at the banquet had fallen into a peculiar silence. Fortunately, it wasn't long before all the guests had arrived. Wei Xinghe and his wife, along with Ma Gu and other main guests, came out from the inner courtyard. Housekeeper Wei called out loudly, and the apprentice ceremony officially began. There wasn't much to say about the ceremony. Although there were many steps, no errors occurred, and aside from Ma Gu looking a bit nervous, everything went smoothly. When Wei Zian knelt down and repeatedly knocked his head to the ground, then presented the tea, which Ma Gu drank, the apprentice ceremony was truly complete. Seeing this, the various powers recognized the matter as set in stone, beyond change. However, they never expected the Wei family to actually let Wei Zian take Ma Gu as his master. They had suspected there was a hidden agenda behind it all. The Ma family master was overjoyed at the development. Before so many witnesses, Ma Gu and Wei Zian's mentor-disciple relationship was firmly established. From then on, Ma Gu would be the personal master of the young master of Wei Mansion, responsible for his tutelage. Likewise, he would also have authority over young Master Wei. Even in future matters of marriage, if Ma Gu wished, he too would have a say. Congratulations to young Master Wei on obtaining a good master, and congratulations to Master Ma Gu on acquiring an excellent disciple. At this moment, a plump guest stood up and loudly offered his congratulations. I have a modest gift here, a small token of celebration. Please accept it with a smile, young master. The guests were taken aback at first, then realizing the intent, could not help but curse inwardly at the cunning of the old fox. They had already delivered their congratulatory gifts upon entering. None had considered this move. Presenting a gift in front of Wei Xinghe would surely leave a more profound impression. If it pleased him, one could gain much favor. Family head Qian, what treasure have you obtained that you present your gift in front of Master Wei? Someone asked in jest. But everyone was indeed curious. What kind of gift made the always shrewd old fox family head Qian so confident as to present it publicly? After all, if the gift wasn't special enough under such scrutiny, it would not be showing off, but rather making a fool of oneself. It's just a small trinket, but I'm sure young master will like it. Family head Qian's face wore a flattering smile as he presented a beautifully crafted wooden box about a foot long and walked forward. Really? What is it? Wei Zian, too, became interested, looking at the wooden box. Everyone's gaze followed the box in family head Qian's hands, their curiosity thoroughly piqued by his actions. Lu Qing was no exception, but when he set his sights on family head Qian, making his way towards Wei Zian, a premonition of danger arose in his heart, prompting him to subconsciously activate his superpower. Immediately after, his expression changed. He called out in a loud warning, "Young master, be careful." The first to react was not Wei Zian, but family head Qian himself. The ingratiating smile on his face vanished, replaced by a chilling coldness. Bang! The wooden box burst open, revealing the contents inside. It was a black short sword, the blade shimmering coldly with a hint of a bloodstain. Simultaneously, a powerful and icy aura burst forth from family head Qian, suppressing the heart and spirit of all present. With one hand gripping the short sword, and an explosive surge of brute force, the cobblestones beneath his feet shattered, and family head Qian lunged like an arrow released from its bow toward Wei Zian, over a dozen steps away. Chapter 224 Shake the Secret Technique. 7 Killings Tower. Blood poison. This sudden and terrifying turn of events was beyond everyone's expectations. Nobody thought that Qian family patriarch, usually even-tempered and known for his prudence, would suddenly engage in such a mad course of action. Has this old fellow gone mad? This was the first thought of all the guests. But immediately after, they realized something was wrong. For the aura that erupted from Qian family patriarch was too strong, too frightening. That ice-cold breath seemed capable of freezing one's heart, causing all the guests to shiver uncontrollably, their limbs stiffening, almost unable to move. Not good. Even Wei Xinghe, a martial arts grandmaster, felt his heart and spirit stagnate, slowing his reaction considerably. He was terrified and could only watch helplessly as the powerfully aura-bursting Qian family patriarch pounced towards Wei Zian, eyes nearly splitting with rage. Shamanic secret technique, blood-slaying sword. Assassin from 7 Killings Tower? Cloth-clothed youth stood up abruptly, his face full of shock. Being in possession of a sect treasure, he was unaffected by the shamanic secret technique, but due to the distance, he could only sigh helplessly at the scene, unable to intervene in time. Wait, where is young Master Lu? The cloth-clothed youth's inward sigh had just begun when he noticed something was amiss. Lu Qing, who had been at his table, had already disappeared. But in the next moment, he knew where Lu Qing had gone. On the makeshift platform, Wei Zian and Ma Gu had already been stunned by the icy demeanor bursting forth from Qian family patriarch. With limbs icy cold, Wei Zian felt an endless chill rising from within. He clearly saw the figure lunging towards him, but his body was completely immobile. Ma Gu behind him felt the same. The aura from Qian family patriarch was too terrifying, seemingly possessing some bizarre power that could freeze one's thoughts, rendering them utterly unmovable. The dozen steps between them vanished in a blink. Qian family patriarch had reached Wei Ziyan in practically a breath's time. His gaze was deep, cold, devoid of any emotion. Resembling a death god crawled out from the nine netherworld, thrusting his sword towards Wei Ziyan's heart. With the aura he emitted, if this thrust were to connect, not even divine beings descending to the earth could likely save Wei Ziyan. However, just as the short sword was about to pierce Wei Ziyan's heart, suddenly, from nowhere, a teacup accompanied by a fierce wind violently struck the side of the short sword. Bang! The teacup collided with the side of the short sword, instantly shattering to pieces. But the force contained within was completely transferred to the short sword. This force was tremendously powerful. Even with Qian family patriarch's strength, he felt his arm shake, unable to fully control the short sword, forcing it to swerve aside. Swoosh! A streak of fresh blood flew up. The sword missed its intended target, not piercing Wei Ziyan's heart, merely slashing past and wounding his arm. Get lost! Simultaneously, a fierce roar resounded, and Lu Qing's figure appeared on the platform. His right fist clenched, his chi blood erupted. Carrying an extremely fierce aura, he punched at Qian family patriarch's flank. What? The deathly gaze in Qian family patriarch's eyes flickered slightly, seemingly surprised that someone could react so quickly under his shamanic secret technique. But he knew the opportunity was lost, and if he continued, even if he could forcibly kill Wei Ziyan, once Wei Xinghe and the others reacted, he himself wouldn't be able to escape. His thoughts whirled rapidly. Qian family patriarch immediately made a decision. He spun and swung out a palm to meet Lu Qing's fist. Boom! Fist and palm collided, air bursting forth. The platform shook, and in this hastily managed counter, Qian family patriarch couldn't match the momentum of the incoming Lu Qing. His plump body immediately flew off, breaking through the nearby surrounding wall. Thinking of running? However, Lu Qing immediately realized something was amiss. In that brief exchange, the opponent hadn't sustained much damage, but had used an extremely clever method of force dissipation, leveraging his fist power to escape. Without a second thought, he forcefully leaped through the break in the wall already pursuing. Little Li, take good care of little Yen. As these words fell, Lu Qing's figure had already vanished, leaving all the guests gaping at the scene in stunned silence. From the moment Qian family patriarch burst his chi blood, to Lu Qing's moving to save Wei Ziyan, and then punching Qian family patriarch flying. All this happened in just a few breaths. Many guests hadn't even grasped what had happened, only to see Lu Qing already chasing after. But in that fleeting moment, the powerful aura released by the two combatants in their clash profoundly shook everyone's hearts, particularly the disciples from Qing Yun's sword pavilion, their faces filled with disbelief. An ear! Just then, Mrs. Wei cried out in shock. Everyone quickly looked over, seeing Wei Ziyan being held by Ma Gu, while the Wei couple and Wei Zihao gathered around, expressions filled with anxiety. As for Wei Ziyan, he was clutching his wounded arm, his eyes already closed, his face showing a trace of blackness that was deepening gradually. Poisoned sword. Everyone was instantly shocked, guessing something. Their hearts were horrified. What kind of poison was coated on the sword? It was so terrifying that young Master Wei fainted from poisoning just moments after being injured. Family head Wei quickly sealed the acupoints on young Master's hand to prevent the chi blood from flowing back to the heart. That man is an assassin from the Seven Killings Tower, using the notorious blood poison. Once the poison reaches the heart, it will be too late. The cloth-clothed youth's voice rang out as he moved onto the platform. Seven Killings Tower? Most of the guests, upon hearing this name, felt puzzled, not knowing this force. Only the few disciples from the Qingyun Sword Pavilion, who were also from a major sect, were deeply shocked and showed horror in their eyes. Upon hearing this, Wei Xinghe, without doubt, immediately sealed the chi blood in Ziyan's arm with several taps of his fingers. However, after sealing the chi blood, the blackening of Xian's face did not slow down much, and the situation remained bleak. Mr. Ji Rui, what should we do next? Wei Xinghe, knowing the cloth-clothed youth was well informed, quickly asked. I have a detoxification pill here that can temporarily inhibit the poisoning if young master takes it. The cloth-clothed youth took out a porcelain bottle and poured out an elixir. Thank you, Mr. Ji Rui. Wei Xinghe took the elixir, pried open Xian's mouth and made him swallow it with water. After ingesting the elixir, the rate at which Xian's face blackened visibly slowed down a lot. But it was still apparent that his condition hadn't improved, and he didn't awake. Mr. Ji Rui, why is it like this? Mrs. Wei, seeing this, became very anxious and asked in grief. Mrs. Wei, my elixir can only do so much. The cloth-clothed youth sighed. The assassin used the infamous blood poison, a secret poison of the Seven Killings Tower, made from various hot toxins. Even a speck can burn through the chi blood, and if a martial arts grandmaster were to be infected, it would be extremely difficult to resolve. Then isn't our an heir? Upon hearing this, Mrs. Wei immediately burst into tears. The guests were also shocked upon hearing this. It was their first time hearing of such a terrifying poison that even a martial arts grandmaster could not withstand. The head of Wei Xinghe also spun, but being a martial arts expert, he quickly calmed down. Ji Rui, is there really no way to save him? My detoxification pill can only suppress the blood poisoning for about an hour. If a renowned doctor can be found within that time, there might still be a chance to detoxify him. Isn't old Dr. Chun in the mansion? Why not ask him to provide aid? The cloth-clothed youth asked somewhat surprisingly. With his medical skill and his cultivation in the innate realm, there should be a way to solve even the severe blood poison. Little did Wei Xinghe know, his face immediately turned bitter. Mr. Ji Rui might not know, but earlier this morning, because of the banquet at the mansion, our ancestor found it too noisy, so he went with old Dr. Chun to gather herbs in the mountains. They are probably still on their way. Otherwise, with the commotion here, how could it have escaped those two senses? With their pace, they currently might be somewhere unknown, and even if someone went to find them, it would not be possible to bring them back within half an hour. It seems so. Then I don't have many good solutions either. The cloth-clothed youth sighed. Could it really be fate? At this point, even Wei Xinghe could not help feeling desperate. Though there were physicians in the city, with a poison that even Mr. Ji Rui couldn't tackle, ordinary physicians would likely be helpless. And just when old Dr. Chun and the ancestor were not in the mansion, was an heir truly destined to face this calamity? Brother Lu. At this moment, Ma Gu suddenly shouted, Family head Wei, quickly have someone call Brother Lu back. He understands medical techniques. He might be able to save Xian. Yes, go get young Master Lu. Mrs. Wei finally caught on. Initially, my injury was cured by young Master Lu. He definitely has a way. Mrs. Wei remembered how her injury had been so severe at the time, no better than an heir's current condition. But under Lu Qing's treatment, within half a day, she was well enough to walk. If he were here, there would definitely be a way to detoxify. But father, young Master Lu has chased after the assassin, and with our abilities, I'm afraid we can't catch up to them, Wei Zihao said embarrassingly. Ahai, you quickly go and call back young Master Lu. Tell him Xian is in critical condition and only he can save him, Wei Xinghe immediately ordered. Here, there were only a handful of people who might have the hope of catching up to Lu Qing. County Lord and cloth-clothed youth, Wei Xinghe couldn't ask, and he couldn't leave himself. The only hope lay with the Grand Steward, who had achieved great success in cultivation of the inner organs. Yes, master. The Grand Steward dared not dally and immediately sought to chase through the broken wall. However, before he could take 2 steps, suddenly he heard the sound of wind. With a thud, a figure flew in from over the wall, smashing harshly onto the ground. Following that, the calm voice of Lu Qing also came from above. I told you, you can't escape. Everyone looked up, only to see Lu Qing standing majestically on the wall, and the person on the ground, limbs twisted and covered with blood, If not the Qian family patriarch, then who else could it be? Chapter 225. Fear and Awe, 36 Heavenly Gang Killers. Family head Qian lay reclined on the ground looking up at Lu Qing, his face filled with disbelief. He couldn't believe that he, the top assassin of Seven Killings Tower, could be defeated by such a young lad, and to be utterly bloodied and battered without a single chance to counterattack. The combat skills he had painstakingly cultivated over the years were utterly useless against Lu Qing, completely crushed. That overwhelming and ferocious momentum of his punches was simply too terrifying. It enveloped all around, sealing off everything, leaving no room for his stealth and escape techniques. No matter where he fled, he would inevitably be enveloped in the barrage of punches. In front of Lu Qing, family head Qian felt like a fly trapped in a spider's web, with no escape in sight. What kind of monster was this? A hint of fear arose in family head Qian's heart. Looking at family head Qian, who lay on the ground like a dead dog, and then turning to Lu Qing, who stood proudly atop the wall, all the guests were incredibly shocked. Putting aside whether this family head Qian was real or fake, the terrifying momentum he had unleashed was undeniably real. The crowd estimated that even if he hadn't reached the level of a martial arts grandmaster, he wasn't far off. His swordsmanship and movement technique were equally impressive. At least among those present, apart from Wei Xinghe and the cloth-clothed youth, no one dared say they could block even one move, let alone possessing the strange and unpredictable secret technique that could even shake the heart and spirit of a grandmaster-level martial artist. Such a formidable assassin could not escape Lu Qing's pursuit and was easily captured and subdued. From the assassin's flight to Lu Qing's return, it was only a matter of dozens of breaths, right? The guests realized that compared to the previous battle at the city gates, Lu Qing's strength had probably improved significantly. What's wrong with the young master? Lu Qing did not care about the odd looks from the guests. His first glance was at Wei Ziyan, who lay unconscious with an abnormal complexion. Young Master Lu, you're back just in time. This villain's sword was poisoned, and an heir has been cut. The poison has entered his body, and he is now unconscious. Mr. Ji Rui said the poison is called blood poison, extremely malicious. Please, young Master Lu, hurry and save an heir. Mrs. Wei said, seeing Lu Qing's return and pleading urgently. Let me see. Upon hearing this, Lu Qing did not dare delay, and with a slight movement, he was already on the platform. Family head Wei, please keep an eye on that assassin. I've broken his limbs and dislocated his jaw, so he should pose no threat. With that, he activated his superpower and looked over Wei Ziyan's body. A color of decay was emanating from Wei Ziyan's body. Wei Ziyan, young master of the Wei family, noble identity, character steadfast and cheerful. Cultivation, initial realm of postnatal Qi blood realm. Inflicted with the strange poison of blood poison from Seven Killings Tower, in critical condition, life hanging by a thread. Indeed, it was blood poison. Lu Qing's heart chilled, knowing the situation was urgent. He took out a small wooden box from his chest and opened it, taking out a jade bottle and a bag of silver needles. He first opened the jade bottle and dripped several drops of medicine liquid into Wei Ziyan's mouth. Then he tore open his upper garment and plunged in more than a dozen silver needles, using the power of acupuncture to aid in activating the medicinal effects. Family head Qian watched the scene with a hint of a mocking expression in his eyes. The blood poison from their Seven Killings Tower, how could it be so easily neutralized? This youngster was truly overestimating himself. It was a pity that his jaw had been dislocated, preventing him from making any scornful remarks. Family head Qian awaited eagerly. The reason he had left so decisively, besides not wanting to get caught in an encirclement, was that Wei Ziyan had been poisoned by his blood poison and was almost certainly facing death. Blood poison was incredibly terrible. Even the antidote from Seven Killings Tower was effective only if taken within a quarter of an hour. After the hour, there was hardly any chance of salvation. This assassination was with the intent to kill. He had not brought an antidote with him at all. He wanted to see what expressions these people would have when Wei Ziyan succumbed to the poison and died. As an assassin, from the moment he was captured, he had disregarded life and death. If he could see these people's faces stricken with grief before dying, it would also be a great pleasure for him. Meanwhile, with Lu Qing's full efforts in acupuncture, the medicine liquid he administered to Wei Ziyan, which contained Earth Vein Spirit Liquid, quickly spread and exerted its effects. Earth Vein Spirit Liquid had incredibly magical effects, capable of reviving the dead and mending bones, created by beings far surpassing the innate realm. Although the spiritual liquid in this medicine had been diluted a lot, it was also infused with a century-old ginseng to replenish vitality. This healing effect was also exceptionally outstanding, truly a life-saving spiritual medicine. Therefore, no matter how formidable the so-called blood poison was, it was still retreating in the face of this life-saving spiritual medicine, being rapidly neutralized. The black aura on Wei Ziyan's face receded at a pace visible to the naked eye, and it quickly improved, turning rosy again. Dozens of breaths later, he opened his eyes, looking bewildered at his surroundings. "Mom, what happened to me?" "And you're awake." Mrs. Wei hugged him fiercely, weeping with joy. Wei Xinghe explained, "Just now, you were poisoned severely and almost didn't wake up at all. It was young Master Lu who saved you." "Really saved me?" The guests witnessing this scene were incredulous. Just a moment ago, they all saw how critical Wei Ziyan's condition was. The blood poison was extremely terrifying. Just a touch would immediately render a person unconscious. Even the detoxification pill from the mysterious Mr. Ji Rue had little effect. Unexpectedly, such a deadly poison was neutralized by Lu Qing with an equally swift method. As the saying goes, illness comes like a falling mountain and goes away like pulling out silk. The same goes for detoxification. Poisoning is simple, but detoxification is far more troublesome. Lu Qing could easily neutralize it, which clearly showed the skill of his medical abilities. Not only was his martial arts cultivation profound and unfathomable, but his medical skill was also formidable. Looking at the still somewhat youthful Lu Qing, the guests felt increasingly that this young man was shrouded in mystery. As for the family head Qian, who had originally wanted to enjoy the spectacle, disbelief filled his eyes. He couldn't believe that the blood poison, which he had exchanged at great cost, was so easily neutralized by someone. This was even harder for him to accept than being defeated and captured by Lu Qing within dozens of breaths. Regrettably, his jaw had been dislocated, and even though he found it unbelievable inside, he couldn't ask any questions out loud. After Wei Ziyan woke up, Lu Qing checked him again. He found that not only was the blood poison in his body completely neutralized, but even the wounds on his arm had healed, which allowed him to finally relax. Wei Xinghe also let out a huge sigh of relief, comforted Wei Ziyan for a while, then approached the family head Qian, looking at him with an icy gaze. "Who are you, and why do you seek my son's life? Where is the real family head Qian?" All the guests looked over as well. Wei Xinghe was no fool, and he could naturally see that this family head Qian was an imposter. The other guests felt the same. This family head Qian was completely different from the one they usually interacted with, especially in terms of his overwhelming strength, which was worlds apart and could not possibly be the same person. The family head Qian just coldly watched Wei Xinghe, without speaking. Seeing his obviously abnormal jaw, the crowd then remembered that Lu Qing had mentioned earlier that this man's jaw had been dislocated. "Family Master Wei, I have removed the poison he hid in his mouth, so he cannot commit suicide by poison. His jaw can be reset," said Lu Qing from the side. Wei Xinghe stepped forward and just adjusted the family head Qian's jaw properly. Then he sneered coldly, "Why kill him? As an assassin from Seven Killings Tower, I never need a reason to kill. As long as there's a bounty, even if it's the head of a nation's ruler, I can pluck it for you to see. As for that fat man from the Qian family, since I needed to assume his identity, naturally, I already killed him." A chill went through everyone's hearts. They felt the audacity of this assassin from Seven Killings Tower. "Who offered the bounty to take my son's life?" Wei Xinghe was furious inside. but he still repressed his anger and continued to ask. I don't know. The rules of Seven Killings Tower are that assassins only take assignments, not inquire about the reasons. Only the headquarters is aware of who offered the bounty. I only care about killing for the reward. I know nothing else. At this, family head Qian also felt a surge of resentment. The information he received from headquarters was that the Wei family had a martial arts grandmaster at Inner Organs Perfection and an elder ancestor who was severely injured. But it did not mention a devilish creature like Lu Qing. Now, with such a significant discrepancy in intelligence, there were only two possibilities. One was that the headquarters deliberately set him up, providing him with false information. The other was that the employer withheld details, unwilling to pay a higher price. Regardless of which it was, the result now was that he had been thoroughly played. Damn it, don't let me return alive, or I will definitely find out who the bastard is that screwed me over. Family head Qian swore venomously in his heart. Since you know nothing, then there is no need to keep you around. Seeing that he could not get any more information, Wei Xinghe, out of annoyance and no desire to waste more words, was about to raise his hand to end this person's life and vent his frustration. Hold on, family master Wei. Just then, the cloth-clothed youth spoke up to stop Wei Xinghe. May I ask him a few questions? Mr. Ji Rui, please. Wei Xinghe temporarily stayed his hand and stepped aside. He held a great deal of respect for the cloth-clothed youth. If it had not been for him sending a message to Elder Dr. Chen and Lu Qing, the Wei family would have likely been destroyed by now. Just now, it was also he who reminded them to seal Xian's qi blood and offered a detoxification pill. Otherwise, Xian might not have survived until Lu Qing's return. So Wei Xinghe naturally had no objection to the cloth-clothed youth's small request. The cloth-clothed youth stepped in front of family head Qian, who still only looked at him coldly, seemingly unconcerned with life or death. However, the next words from the cloth-clothed youth changed his expression instantly. I've heard that among the numerous assassins of Seven Killings Tower, the most famous are the 36 Heavenly Gang and the 72 Devil Earth. May I know, which one of the 36 Heavenly Gang are you? Chapter 226. The Millennia Change, an Era of Great Contention. However, though family head Qian changed his expression, he still did not speak. The cloth-clothed youth did not mind and continued. It is rumored that the 72 Earth Devils and 36 Heavenly Gang killers of Seven Killings Tower, each of them skilled in assassination and stealth techniques, are extremely formidable. Each of the 72 Earth Devils is a martial arts expert over the small success of the muscle-bone realm. They can change their muscles and bones, disguise their appearance, and assume another identity flawlessly, catching people off guard. As for the 36 Heavenly Gang, they are even more incredible. Each one is a strong practitioner above the internal organs realm, possessing various assassination secret techniques. Moreover, the internal organs realm experts of Seven Killing Tower must have assassinated at least 3 martial artists of the same level to qualify for a position among the Heavenly Gang. The 36 Heavenly Gang killers are divided into upper, middle, and lower 12 gang, based on your cultivation and the Shaking God's secret technique you displayed earlier. I presume you must be one of the upper 12 gang. The more everyone listened, the more shocked they became. The influence of Seven Killings Tower was too terrifying. Based on what the cloth-clothed youth said, just the 72 Earth Devils and the 36 Heavenly Gang were already an incredibly strong force. Knowing that the entirety of Song County combined didn't have many strong practitioners in the internal organs realm. Not even the state mansion could gather so many internal organs realm experts. With the strength of Seven Killings Tower, it would be easy to sweep through a commandery. Family head Qian initially didn't want to respond, but as the cloth-clothed youth narrated, he finally couldn't help but speak out. It's no wonder you are a disciple from Tianji Building, so knowledgeable about our Seven Killings Tower. But isn't your Tianji Building always touted as absolutely neutral, not participating in any power struggles? Isn't what you are doing now a violation of your principles? We from Tianji Building need not explain our actions to such as you, who skulk in the shadows, the cloth-clothed youth said indifferently. Seven Killings Tower in recent years has acted more and more recklessly, committing assassinations and stirring chaos among sects and commanderies, which has gradually begun to affect the stability of the human race. Do you really think no one dares to punish you? Ha ha ha, don't talk so self-righteously. A great change that hasn't come in 10,000 years is about to arrive. Who isn't vying now? Are you really that noble Tianji building? Do you think you're worthy of deciding the fate of the human race? Unexpectedly, upon hearing this, family head Qian burst into laughter, his face full of sarcasm. Exactly. You guys have found out something. The cloth-clothed youth's expression became solemn, finally obtaining the information he wanted to know. The recent actions of Seven Killings Tower were indeed part of some scheme. Humph, you so-called righteous alliance. Do you really think you can conceal the heavens with one hand? Don't forget, my Seven Killings Tower is also a supreme sect with 10,000 years of inheritance. You think you can block information and monopolize the first mover's advantage as if the fate of the world is something you, with your sanctimonious mien, can control. Family head Qian seemed to no longer care, disclosing the information of his own faction with disregard. Since he was already misled this time, he naturally wanted to mislead others in return. The cloth-clothed youth was shaken, knowing the situation was truly developing in the negative direction as the Tower Master had predicted years ago. The surrounding guests, listening to the conversation between the two, were all confused faces, completely unaware of the significance. Only Lu Qing sensed something. He knew that the great changes mentioned by the two were probably related to the resurgence of spiritual energy. It seemed that those top forces were indeed aware of the rise and fall of spiritual energy, and they had already begun to make arrangements early to seize the preemptive opportunities. Looking at family head Qian with his slightly fierce expression, the cloth-clothed youth fell silent. At the same time, he was even more anxious. If things were really as the other party said, it would not take long before the whole world would indeed start to become chaotic. Master Wei, I have no other questions to ask. I'll leave this person for you to deal with. Seeing Wei Xinghe standing in front of him again and that cold expression on his face, family head Qian knew that this time, he probably wouldn't escape death. He wasn't afraid though, having been a top assassin in the Seven Killings Tower. His hands were stained with countless lives, and he was long aware of the possibility of dying on a failed mission. However, there was one thing he needed to clarify before he could die in peace. So he said to Wei Xinghe, I know I'm doomed to die, and I truly don't know who the employer is, but if you let that young master answer a few of my questions, I can tell you the contents of this assassination mission, and you can guess who the enemy is. Wei Xinghe turned to look at Lu Qing. Lu Qing, his expression unchanged, said calmly, Ask. But he didn't say whether he would answer. I dare to ask you, who was your mentor? And are you a descendant of the 4 great secret places? In family head Qian's eyes, a devilish genius like Lu Qing was likely to have been nurtured only by those mythical places mentioned in legends. Unfortunately, those places are ethereal. Even with the intelligence of the Seven Killings Tower, investigating for thousands of years, they had found nothing. If not for the fact that whenever there was a major change in the world, descendants of those places would appear to settle chaos and guide the situation, they wouldn't have thought these secret places existed at all. To his disappointment, Lu Qing shook his head. I'm sorry to let you down. I have no sect, and my mentor is merely a wandering doctor, not a descendant from any secret land. Not a descendant from a secret place? Family head Qian showed an incredulous look, but then, as if something occurred to him, he suddenly burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, I know now, within the archives of my Seven Killings Tower, there was an ancient prophecy. When the 10,000-year upheaval arrives, the world structure will undergo drastic changes. At that time, dragons and snakes will rise from the land. Heroes will emerge simultaneously, devils and unparalleled talents will gush forth, vying for an early opportunity to seize fate and become the child of fate blessed with boundless chi fortune. You have no sect, yet you have achieved the internal organ realm and the realm of martial arts in your teenage years, effortlessly reaching master status in fists, feet, swords, and knives. A person like you must undoubtedly be that legendary unparalleled talent blessed with chief fortune. To think that I, heavenly orphan, have been defeated by the Chi Fortune Taoist. It's worth it, truly worth it. Family head Qian, seeming mad, laughed hysterically, his words moving everyone present. After laughing for a while, obtaining the answer he wanted, family head Qian finally calmed his emotions. Wei family master, didn't you want to know the contents of my assassination mission? Speak, Wei Xinghe said solemnly. My mission this time is actually very simple. The employer had only one requirement, which was to kill your most beloved younger son before you, to let you experience the heartbreaking pain of losing a loved one and understand the feeling of the joy of the bereaved and the revengeful. As for the reward, it is 3 elixirs that can assist a martial artist at internal organ realm great success to possibly comprehend the meaning of perfection, stepping into the complete mastery of the internal organs realm, and achieving the Grandmaster status. Hearing this, Wei Xinghe still frowned, unable to determine who the employer was. But family head Qian no longer cared about these things. He turned his gaze to Lu Qing, his eyes shining with a strange light. Young master, although you are blessed with chief fortune and unrivaled talent, a great era of strife is approaching. At that time, many devils and geniuses, no less exceptional than you, will emerge and vie for chief fortune. I advise you, do not be constrained by the righteous pretensions of these so-called upright people, that are all hypocrisy and hesitancy. If so, you will only become a pawn in someone else's game, never to step outside of the chessboard. In the era of great strife, one must vie for everything. Only those who truly stop at nothing and vie for everything have the right to laugh last and stand at the pinnacle of the world. Since you are the one who has defeated me, I sincerely hope you'll be the one to ultimately seize the supreme providence and ascend to the pinnacle of martial arts. After saying this, family head Qian's face suddenly turned red, his aura surged. Then, his complexion faded, and as his life energy continually declined, his eyes gradually lost their sparkle. He had intentionally ruptured his heart vessel and died. Chapter 227 Bone and Muscle Changing Technique. Family head Qian severed his own heart meridian, to everyone's surprise. As for his last words, they caused considerable shock among many. Nobody would have guessed that an assassin, whose livelihood was taking others' lives, would leave behind words of advice and caution for Lu Qing, his adversary. Even Lu Qing had fluctuations in his eyes as he silently watched the corpse of the assassin, lost in thought. And as family head Qian's breath faded, his face and body began to change gradually. His originally short and plump body slowly distorted and stretched, growing taller and much thinner. His face also turned into that of a very ordinary middle-aged man. Such strange changes made many guests shudder. Bone and muscle changing technique, a secret technique that top assassins from Seven Killings Tower must cultivate, allows a complete transformation of one's physique and appearance, changing identities, truly strange. It is by virtue of this technique that the assassination success rate of Seven Killings Tower is so high, becoming a feared assassination sect. It is also because of this technique that Seven Killings Tower has survived to this day, with several top sects having tried to eradicate them without success. The cloth-clothed youth sighed. The guests immediately felt goosebumps. This bone and muscle-changing technique was indeed extremely strange and hard to guard against. Going to assassinate someone with a completely different face, who could be cautious against that? After all, in this world, who doesn't have one or two close acquaintances? Wei Xinghe was even more startled and afraid. Mr. Ji Rue, now that this person is dead, what about the safety of an heir in the future? If they were targeted by such a terrifying Seven Killings Tower, could Xian still have a way to survive? Please rest assured, Wei family master. The rule of Seven Killings Tower is that the assassination mission, once accepted by an assassin, requires payment. If the assassination is successful, 70% of the payment goes to the assassin, but if it fails and the assassin dies, the payment goes to Seven Killings Tower. Unless the assassin himself admits the failure and compensates the sect, Seven Killings Tower might return the payment. Therefore, if the client wants to continue the assassination of young Master Wei, they must issue a reward again. But this time, even an assassin from the Upper 12 gang has failed. The cost of continuing the assassination would probably more than double. I don't think that person would be willing to pay such a high price. The cloth-clothed youth reassured them. Upon hearing this, everyone understood the dominance of Seven Killings Tower. The implication from the cloth-clothed youth was clear. Once an assassination reward is posted in Seven Killings Tower, and someone accepts the mission, unless the assassin himself gives up and is willing to compensate, the payment is obligatory, whether the mission succeeds or not. Of course, Seven Killings Tower dares to operate this way, surely they have something to rely on. Perhaps it is, as Mr. Ji Rue previously said, the high success rate of assassinations by Seven Killings Tower gives them the confidence to set such rules. Even Wei Xinghe felt somewhat relieved upon hearing this. To compel an assassin more powerful than those from the 12 Heavenly Gang, the bounty must be extremely high. The person behind the scenes was clearly targeting him. If they could afford to hire such a person, they would likely have directly offered a bounty to assassinate him, rather than indirectly trying to provoke him by targeting Xian. Compared to that, I am actually more worried about young Master Lu. At that moment, the cloth-clothed youth continued. Everyone was taken aback and involuntarily looked towards Lu Qing. Lu Qing looked back at them. According to what the assassin said before his death, he called himself Heavenly Orphan. If I'm not mistaken, he must be the one ranked 9th among the Upper 12 Heavenly Gang in the Seven Killings Tower. Although the Seven Killings Tower has countless assassins, the spots for the 72 Earthly Fiends and the 36 Heavenly Gang are fixed. Now that Heavenly Orphan has been defeated by you and has committed suicide, the 9th spot in the Upper 12 Heavenly Gang is empty. The position of the 36 Heavenly Gang holds a very special significance within the Seven Killings Tower, and now that one is vacant, it will surely attract the covetous eyes of other assassins. To vie for a position of the Heavenly Gang, one must prove oneself. And the quickest way to prove oneself, naturally, is to assassinate you, the martial artist who defeated Heavenly Orphan. So if my guess is right, next, there will probably be quite a few Seven Killings Tower assassins who will want to meet you. Even the Seven Killings Tower might issue an internal assassination order to target you. The assassination secret techniques of the Seven Killings Tower are strange and tricky. You need to be careful. The cloth-clothed youth said solemnly. Is that so? Isn't little Yen in danger then? Hearing this, Lu Qing's expression turned slightly solemn. If the Seven Killings Tower really intended to target him for assassination, that would indeed be troublesome. He was not afraid for himself, but he was worried that those people, sparing no means, might harm little Yen. You can rest assured about that. The Seven Killings Tower has its own pride. According to its rules, to prove one's eligibility for the Heavenly Gang, one must defeat you honorably using assassination techniques. If someone threatened others to coerce you into submission, not only would the Seven Killings Tower not recognize such a feat, but they would even punish it. The position of the 36 Heavenly Gang holds special significance in the Seven Killings Tower. They wouldn't let someone take it so frivolously. The cloth-clothed youth explained. I see. Then let them come. I want to see what strange aspects the Seven Killings Tower really holds. Hearing that it wouldn't affect others, Lu Qing was much relieved. As for the assassinations from the Seven Killings Tower, the bone and muscle changing technique, which can alter one's appearance, is indeed marvelous. But in front of him, who possesses divine soul power and superpower, even the most magical secret technique of transformation is utterly useless. Unless it was an assassin from the innate realm, he needn't be overly cautious. Thinking this, Lu Qing couldn't help but ask, Mr. Ji Rue, are there any innate realm assassins within the Seven Killings Tower? Yes, the cloth-clothed youth answered affirmatively. But rest assured, even the Seven Killings Tower must abide by the Holy Mountain's ban. Martial artists above the innate realm are not allowed to attack humans below the innate without cause. Should anyone dare to overtly break the ban, even the Seven Killings Tower wouldn't withstand the pressure from the Holy Mountain and the 4 great secret places. That's very good indeed. I also want to experience other secret techniques of the Seven Killings Tower. This could actually be a good opportunity. At this point, Lu Qing truly set his worries aside. Seeing how Lu Qing remained so calm and composed in the face of possible terrifying assassinations, all the guests were filled with admiration. They recalled the words Heavenly Orphan had said before his death. Although they were unclear about what exactly this so-called millennium upheaval was, they were somewhat inclined to believe in the notion of the Child of Fate. If even someone as outstanding as Lu Qing couldn't be the Child of Fate, they couldn't imagine what kind of devil the real Child of Fate would be. Chapter 228. Seven Killings Order. The waves begin to rise. Seeing that Lu Qing showed no fear of the possible assassinations from Seven Killings Tower, even the cloth-clothed youth couldn't help but admire him. At this moment, even he had to admit that what Heavenly Orphan said before dying had some truth to it. Lu Qing indeed might be an exceptional talent born at the right moment before the era of great strife, carrying the mandate of destiny. Young Master Lu, actually, this could be an opportunity for you, perhaps. Seeing Lu Qing's composed demeanor, the cloth-clothed youth couldn't help but remark jokingly, after admiring him inwardly. "Oh, what do you mean by that?" Lu Qing asked, slightly taken aback. Seven Killings Tower is a sect that possesses ancient heritages, and similarly it follows some ancient rules. Within Seven Killings Tower, an assassination order is issued called the Seven Killings Order. Once the Seven Killings Order is activated, you will face the assassins of the entire Seven Killings Tower, but these assassination attempts are not unlimited. According to the rules of the Seven Killings Order, they will carry out a maximum of 7 assassination attempts against you. After 7 attempts, if you are still alive, then Seven Killings Tower will cease their pursuit and offer you the highest courtesy. Not only will they treat you as a distinguished guest, but they will also pledge never to accept any assassination tasks concerning you ever again. Additionally, they will declare to the entire assassin world that you have become a guest of honor in Seven Killings Tower. Any other assassin organization that attempts to assassinate you will be seen as provoking Seven Killings Tower, and they will face Seven Killings Tower's revenge. Moreover, it's rumored that besides these, Seven Killings Tower will present you with an opportunity. However, what this opportunity specifically is, no one has ever known. The cloth-clothed youth's explanation made everyone listen in stunned silence. No one had imagined that an assassination from Seven Killings Tower involved so many specifics. Mr. Ji Rue, based on what you've said, does it mean that anyone who survives the Seven Killings Order will in turn be protected by Seven Killings Tower? Wei Xinghe asked. That's correct. The cloth-clothed youth nodded. Lu Qing, however, inquired, Then may I ask, Mr. Ji Rue, has anyone ever survived this Seven Killings Order? Yes, the cloth-clothed youth asserted. The Seven Killings Order of Seven Killings Tower is not issued lightly, but according to the records of Tianji Building, in the nearly 10,000 years, Seven Killings Tower has issued at least hundreds of Seven Killings Orders. 2 distant events are hard to verify, but in the most recent millennium, a total of 3 people have safely survived the pursuit of the Seven Killings Order. The most recent individual was a figure from 300 years ago. And these 3 individuals did indeed, as rumors had it, receive Seven Killings Tower's protection, and thereafter, they never experienced any form of assassination for the rest of their lives. It is said that one of them was once targeted for assassination by a rising assassin organization. But the moment the contract was offered, before anyone could take up the task, that assassin organization was uprooted overnight and completely eradicated. It is precisely because of these incidents that people believe Seven Killings Tower truly adheres to the rules of the Seven Killings Order. Only 3 people had managed to survive the assassination attempts of the Seven Killings Order in a millennium. Hearing this, everyone finally understood just how difficult this was. Goodness, the odds were so slim, it was hardly sufficient to say it's surviving against all odds. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say it was a near-certain death scenario. No wonder Seven Killings Tower would make such a promise. To them, someone surviving the Seven Killings Order was a rarity that might not occur even once in hundreds of years. Anyone who could escape 7 Killings Tower's 7 attempts and remain unscathed must indeed be an exceptional talent with tremendous fate and destiny. For such a being to step back and make way temporarily, what's the harm? Some astute guests pondered for a moment and then suddenly understood the subtlety involved. The rule of 7 Killings Tower might appear restrictive, but in reality, it was a way for them to keep an escape route for themselves. So young Master Lu, you needn't worry about 7 Killings Tower not keeping their promise after you survive the 7 Killings Order. This is an ancient rule passed down through thousands of years in 7 Killings Tower, and they cannot possibly break it. The cloth-clothed youth concluded. I never entrust my life to the promises of others. Lu Qing remained unaffected, replying indifferently. Whether the rule of the 7 Killings Order is true or not, I don't care. If 7 Killings Tower really wants to assassinate me, then they should also be prepared to become my enemies. At that point, when to stop may not be for them to decide. Lu Qing was not one to passively receive blows. If 7 Killings Tower really wanted to assassinate him, it might well turn out to be a question of who hunts whom. Sensing the coldness in Lu Qing's words, the cloth-clothed youth felt a chill in his heart. Only then did he remember that the person before him was not as kind as he seemed on the surface. The other guests felt an inexplicable chill as well. Especially Ma Gu, who couldn't help but recall the scene he witnessed at Happy Village. Lu Qing holding a long knife amidst the flames, decapitated heads rolling, corpses scattered everywhere, blood filling the ground. Because of Heavenly Orphan's assassination attempt, the Wei family's mentorship ceremony could only conclude hastily. However, aside from the Chen family, the other guests felt not the slightest disappointment. Their gains from attending the Wei family's ceremony this time were immense. Not only had they witnessed a duel between martial arts experts, but also learned many secret informations they normally couldn't have accessed. Particularly some keen-minded individuals who detected extremely important information from the conversation between the cloth-clothed youth and the assassin. Like the disciples from Qingyun Sword Pavilion. Chapter 229 7 Killings Order, Rising Waves _2. What is the upheaval that hasn't been seen in 10,000 years? In a certain courtyard, several Qingyun Sword Pavilion disciples were gathered together, quietly discussing. I don't know, but Tianji Building is always mysterious and knows countless secrets. 7 Killings Tower, likewise, is an ancient sect that has been passed down for 10,000 years. It must be an extremely important matter for them to take it so seriously. This matter must be reported to the sect. If it is as those two said, a major upheaval is about to occur in the world, and our Qingyun Sword Pavilion must also prepare in advance to respond. 7th Junior Brother, later I will write a letter by hand, and you must immediately start your journey back to the sect and report today's events to the sect in full. Yes. After discussing for a while and making a decision, they then started to talk about other matters. Speaking of which, that young Master Lu is truly terrifying. Even the assassins of the 12 Heavenly Gang from the 7 Killings Tower are no match for him, not even able to flee. One of the Qingyun Sword Pavilion disciples, recalling the morning's events, still felt amazed. The assassins of the 12 Heavenly Gang from the 7 Killings Tower are recorded in the sect as extremely formidable beings. It is rumored that they possess the ability to assassinate martial arts grandmasters. And indeed, the facts proved the rumors true. At that time, the aura burst forth by Heavenly Orphan was not only frightfully powerful, but also had the strange effect of shaking the heart, spirit, and stalling the thought process. Even Wei Family Master, himself a martial arts grandmaster, seemed affected at that moment, his movements delayed. Yet, such a fearsome assassin stood no chance against young Master Lu, unable to escape, which was simply inconceivable. Yes, who would have thought that in a small place like Song County, there would be such an exceptional genius? I believe that even those top true disciples of our Sword Pavilion intersect pale in comparison to young Master Lu in terms of talent. The elders were right. There are always stronger people in the world, and there are heavens beyond our own. There are always some geniuses and devils in this world who are beyond ordinary people's imagination. We used to think that the locals here in Song County were naive and had never seen a real martial arts expert, which is why they believed the rumors and overly praised young Master Lu. But it turns out, the real frogs in the well were ourselves. Another disciple also sighed. The rest of them, hearing this, remained silent. There was no helping it, the shock that Lu Qing brought them was too great. Who would have thought that a teenager, barely in his teens, could achieve such martial prowess? Even the fearsome assassins from the 12 heavenly gang of the 7 Killings Tower were easily defeated by him, his strength being inconceivably strong. Moreover, as his martial prowess was so formidable, he was also an expert in medical skills, capable of easily resolving the dreaded blood poison from the 7 Killings Tower. His medical skills were no less impressive than his martial capabilities. A young man, yet able to achieve such accomplishments in both martial arts and medical skills. This left several disciples of the Qingyun Sword Pavilion feeling shocked and unable to comprehend. In fact, they all felt somewhat fortunate at this time. Fortunately, at the banquet, although they were skeptical after hearing some country airs praise Lu Qing, they did not verbally ridicule young Master Lu. Otherwise, they probably all would have ended up as clowns, publicly slapped in the face. It seems that following the teachings of the elders when going out is correct. No matter when and where, one must remain humble, never arrogant or complacent because of a momentary whim. Now, the disciples of the Qingyun Sword Pavilion deeply realized how sensible the teachings of the elders were back at the sect. Perhaps this was the real significance of the sect sending them out to experience the world. Just as the disciples of the Qingyun Sword Pavilion were realizing the meaning of their experience, in the County Lord Mansion, atop a small building, the cloth-clothed youth was sitting in front of a desk, holding a jade pen and writing vigorously on a Dan book jade scroll placed on the table. As he wrote, the tip of the jade pen emitted brilliance, transforming into characters that fell into the Dan book jade scroll, disappearing into it. After continuously writing for half an hour, the cloth-clothed youth wrote all the events of the past few days into the Dan book jade scroll and transmitted it to the sect. He then put down the pen, stood up, walked to the front of the small building, and looked out at the distant sky with a worried expression. The 10,000-year upheaval is approaching. The world's situation is about to change drastically, and various forces from the demon and evil paths are also stirring. Where will the fate of humanity go? The conversation with Heavenly Orphan let the cloth-clothed youth know that the upcoming 10,000-year upheaval was probably no secret among many top forces. He also thought about some of the recent information uncovered by Tianji Building, which further deepened his worries. Feeling a great upheaval was imminent, Lu Qing knew that the world would soon be thrown into chaos. He couldn't help but wonder how many people would meet untimely deaths, their lives reduced to ashes. He also pondered whether Tianji Building could navigate such a monumental change and preserve itself. His thoughts then turned to Lu Qing. Despite being such a mysterious young man, he had never been able to see through him. Even using the sect's exotic treasure had not clarified his true nature. It was as though there was always a layer of mist surrounding him, capable of concealing any probing and calculations. Though Lu Qing's background remained elusive, he always had a sense of warning in his heart. Sensing that Lu Qing's power was extremely terrifying, he might not even be a match for him. Thinking about Lu Qing's age and the last words of the Heavenly Orphan before his death, the cloth-clothed youth somewhat agreed with the Heavenly Orphan's claim. Perhaps Lu Qing truly was an unparalleled genius destined to appear before the imminent changes in the heavens and earth. Only such a favored child of destiny, born with great fortune, could fearlessly obscure his own fate from their exotic treasure of Tianji Building. But could such a born genius really be so terrifying? The cloth-clothed youth recalled some ancient records from his sect. According to those records, when the heavens and earth were about to change, numerous heroes would rise, and many geniuses destined to seize their destiny would appear. If the talents of these children of fate were all as formidable as Lu Qing's, he couldn't begin to imagine the dazzling clash of brilliance when these unparalleled geniuses contested with one another. How could they, of Tianji Building, adapt to such heavenly secrets and guide the major trends amid these unparalleled geniuses? Thinking about his sect's ancestral teachings, the cloth-clothed youth felt a chill. He couldn't help but doubt if the founding grandmaster of his sect had been too fanciful in his thoughts. Jirue, are you there? Just as the cloth-clothed youth's thoughts were fluctuating, suddenly, he heard a familiar knock at the door. I'm here. Come in. The cloth-clothed youth casually put away the jade pen and the Dan book jade scroll, and spoke indifferently. The door opened, and Lord County Master, Yen Songhai, walked in, holding some liquor and food along with a chess set. What is it? Asked the cloth-clothed youth. Here to drink and play chess. Yen Songhai mentioned what he held in his hands. Haven't you already had quite a lot to drink this morning at the Wei family? More drinking. The cloth-clothed youth was somewhat speechless, finding that his friend seemed to be increasingly indulging in alcohol. That bit of liquor was nothing. It was scared away by the assassins from the Seven Killings Tower. Yen Songhai casually started setting up the liquor, food, and chessboard on the table. Come, it looks like you also have many worries. Why not join me for a few drinks? The cloth-clothed youth thought for a moment, didn't refuse, and sat down at the table. His friend poured him a glass of wine. After a few drinks and several moves in chess, Yen Songhai then asked, Are you troubled by what the assassin from the Seven Killings Tower said today about the millennial upheaval? The cloth-clothed youth paused, his expression unreadable. It's not something you should know. Don't ask. Have you forgotten the lessons of the past? This time, Yen Songhai didn't back down but smiled instead. It seems, then, what Heavenly Orphan said was true. The world is really about to change. The cloth-clothed youth remained silent. After a while, he finally spoke. Indeed, the world is about to change, but it's not the kind of change you envision. Yen Songhai, put aside your little scheming. This is not something you can touch. If you meddle recklessly, it's not just you, even we of Tianji Building or Holy Mountain could be shattered into pieces, never to recover. Do you want to lead the Yen family toward destruction? Hearing this, Yen Songhai's complexion finally changed drastically. Chapter 230, Fire-Burning Liquid, a return to Zhu Xian workshop. Young Master Lu, I found all the materials you asked for, Wei Xinghe said with delight on the third day after the apprenticeship ceremony, as he arrived at Lu Qing's residence. Have you finally gathered them all? Lu Qing was equally surprised. Where are all the materials? I've already had someone prepare to bring them here. There's no need for such trouble. I still need to configure these materials. Wei family master, is there an alchemy room in the mansion? I would like to borrow it. Yes, of course. Shall I have someone move the materials to the alchemy room then? That works too. Thank you. After Wei Xinghe had left, Elder Dr. Chan asked, Ah Qing, what materials did you have the Wei family master find for you? Some materials for mixing medicinal liquids, related to forging, Lu Qing answered. The elder doctor nodded without asking further. He knew of the mysterious legacy Lu Qing had acquired, so he was somewhat used to him coming up with strange things from time to time. Master, after I've prepared the medicinal liquid, I'll need to make a trip to the smithy, and I might return late, said Lu Qing. Yes, be careful when you go out and pay attention to your safety, the elder doctor cautioned. Just 2 days ago, while Elder Dr. Chen and Wei Shanhai were out gathering herbs, they returned only to learn about an assassination attempt that had taken place back at the mansion. Wei Shanhai was so furious that he nearly confronted Seven Killings Tower to demand an explanation. Hearing everyone's discussions and the cloth-clothed youth's words about the Seven Killings Order, Elder Dr. Chen also worried about Lu Qing's situation. However, he knew not to let fear inhibit action. It was impossible to stay holed up in Wei Mansion just because of a potential assassination. Moreover, Elder Dr. Chen knew Lu Qing's character well, calm and steady. Since Lu Qing thought it safe to go out, he must be confident in ensuring his safety. I understand, Master. When I return, I'll bring you a surprise, Lu Qing replied. After gathering his things, Lu Qing then went to the alchemy room at Wei Mansion. Upon arriving, he inspected the materials that Wei Xinghe's men had brought over and, after examination, nodded in satisfaction. The materials were almost exactly what he needed. Any slight discrepancies were trivial and wouldn't affect the configuration of the medicinal liquid. Of course, this was also because the list he had given to Wei Xinghe not only had the names of the materials but also listed their various properties. Otherwise, it would not have been so easy to gather everything just by name alone. After all, in the legacy Lu Qing had obtained, many of the materials still bore names from tens of thousands of years ago. Who knew if those names had changed over such a lengthy period? But while names might alter, the properties of the materials would not easily change. Thus, Lu Qing had successfully gathered all the materials. Wei Family Master, I need to prepare a unique medicinal liquid using these materials. Please make sure no one disturbs me, Lu Qing requested. Please rest assured, young Master Lu. I will personally ensure that no one interrupts, Wei Xinghe responded gravely. Ever since Lu Qing had once again saved Wei Xian's life and after hearing the conversation between the cloth-clothed youth and heavenly orphan, Wei Xinghe's respect for Lu Qing had deepened. Thank you, Wei Family Master. Lu Qing entered the alchemy room, closed the door, and began diligently mixing the medicinal liquid. An hour later, Lu Qing looked at the fiery red liquid emanating wisps of heat before him, a hint of satisfaction in his eyes. Although over this period, he had used his superpower multiple times to simulate and attempt the preparation of this fire-burning liquid in his mind. This was his first actual practice. He hadn't expected to succeed on his first try, an unexpected delight indeed. Originally, he had even had Wei Xinghe prepare several extra sets of materials for practice. However, the remaining materials should not go to waste, so Lu Qing continued to prepare them. Another hour passed, and Lu Qing opened the door of the alchemy room and walked out. Young Master Lu, how did it go? Wei Xinghe immediately greeted him. I have successfully prepared the medicine liquid, Wei Family Master. Next, I need to visit Zhu Exian workshop. I probably won't be back for lunch, so there's no need to prepare my portion. Is young Master Lu going to Zhu Exian workshop to forge his own weapon? Wei Xinghe recalled what the Grand Steward had mentioned and couldn't help asking. Indeed, I have an appointment with Master Lin of Zhu Exian workshop. I will be using his forge again in the next few days. Wei Xinghe hesitated for a moment and said, Young Master Lu, I wonder if I could also follow you to observe? Of course. But does the Wei Family Master also have an interest in casting? Actually, young Master Lu, I heard from the Grand Steward that you are highly accomplished in the art of casting and possess the demeanor of a Grandmaster. I have never had the fortune to witness a casting master's demeanor, and I would naturally love to observe. That's the Grand Steward's exaggeration. I only have some understanding in the art of forging and am far from deserving the title of a casting master. However, since the Wei Family Master is interested, it would be an honor for me. With Lu Qing's permission, Wei Xinghe was quite anticipatory and immediately went to make arrangements. Meanwhile, Lu Qing first returned to Yuzhu Courtyard, entered his room to take a wooden box, and then took the smallest piece of outer heaven-fallen iron from his Chenkuan Qi bag and put it inside. Then, carrying the wooden box, he walked out of the courtyard and set off for Zhu Exian workshop together with Wei Xinghe. Young Master Lu, you're here? Upon arriving at Zhu Exian workshop, they saw that Master Lin and his apprentices were already respectfully waiting for them. It turned out that during the time Lu Qing was retrieving items from his courtyard, Wei Xinghe had sent someone ahead to notify Zhu Exian workshop. Knowing that Lu Qing was finally coming to forge his weapon, Master Lin was naturally ecstatic. He immediately closed Zhu Exian workshop temporarily and led his apprentices in respectfully waiting for Lu Qing's arrival. Master Lin, I am troubling you again to borrow your workshop's furnace, Lu Qing politely said. Not at all, not at all. Master Lin quickly responded. It is our honor at Zhu Exian workshop that young Master Lu values us. Master Lin now had immense respect for Lu Qing. During the previous days when he was helping to polish the 1,000 refined sword mold that Lu Qing had forged, the more he polished, the more astounded he became. That sword mold had been forged by Lu Qing to an ultimate perfection. Flawless throughout without any impurities, truly impeccable. Master Lin was utterly fascinated. Thus, for Lu Qing, who had forged such a perfect thousand-refined sword mold, he was filled with admiration. Therefore, even though the one accompanying him this time was the Wei family patriarch, he was no longer surprised. In Master Lin's view, Lu Qing, whose forging skills had reached the Grandmaster level, entirely deserved such esteem. The group then entered Zhu Xian workshop. Young Master Lu, will you be using furnace number 1 again? Master Lin eagerly asked. Yes, I've used it before and it feels quite comfortable. Let's stick with it. Lu Qing nodded. Then I will start the furnace for young Master Lu. Master Lin eagerly stepped forward, went to the bellows, and with a strong pull, a surge of flames arose and heat waves rolled. Young Master Lu, please. Master Lin's respectful demeanor, much like that of a junior apprentice, was excessively humble. Thank you. Lu Qing did not refuse. He understood the old craftsman's intent to take the opportunity to assist him and observe his forging technique closely. He didn't mind this. If the old craftsman could really grasp something, that would be his fortune too. Placing the wooden box down, opening it, Lu Qing took out the outer heaven fallen iron inside. When Master Lin clearly saw the appearance of the fallen iron, he was initially stunned. Then his eyes gradually widened. Chapter 231. Mastery of Skill, Renown echoes in all directions. Young Master Lu, could this be the legendary outer heaven fallen iron? Staring at the item extracted by Lu Qing, Master Lin asked while his eyes widened in disbelief. Yes, this is a piece of outer heaven fallen iron I've acquired by chance, perfect for forging my weapon. Lu Qing did not deny. Such a large piece of outer heaven fallen iron. Upon receiving Lu Qing's confirmation, Master Lin was so shocked he almost jumped up in amazement. His eyes filled with incredulity. This was outer heaven fallen iron, the legendary material for smithing divine weapons. Just a small piece could transform mortal iron into divine iron. Now Lu Qing possessed such a large piece. Master Lin finally understood why Lu Qing had been so disinterested in a thousand-refined sword mold earlier, casually giving it away. It turned out he had such a miraculous substance for forging in his hand. Wei Xinghe, standing nearby, also felt astounded. He too had heard of the great reputation of outer heaven fallen iron. It was rumored to be one of the best materials for forging divine weapons, and yet, it was in Lu Qing's possession. Young Master Lu, although the outer heaven fallen iron is a material for forging divine items, it is also highly resistant to heat. I fear that my furnace might not be able to melt it, Master Lin said with a wistful smile after finally regaining his composure. Outer heaven fallen iron, originally from beyond the skies, was a miraculous substance that fell from the heavens. In the process of entering this world, it had been tempered by the natural forces such as the celestial gale and lightning within the clouds. Thus, its melting point was extremely high, and it was highly resistant to heat. With the Zhu Xian workshop's furnace, they were likely unable to do anything to such a divine material. It's no problem, I've come prepared. Master, you only need to help me control the temperature, and leave the rest to me, Lu Qing said as he placed the piece of outer heaven fallen iron into the furnace for smelting. Seeing this, Master Lin had no choice but to follow Lu Qing's instructions and continued to pump the bellows. As the bellows continued to operate, the flames within the furnace grew more and more intense. Yet despite the prolonged smelting, the piece of outer heaven fallen iron showed no signs of change, not even a hint of turning red. Just as Master Lin had guessed, their Zhu Xian workshop's furnace simply could not heat this divine metal. However, Lu Qing's expression was not one of impatience. He took out a small porcelain bottle, the size of a palm, from a wooden box, uncorked it, and promptly poured a drop of red medicine liquid into the furnace. As the liquid fell into the furnace, the already vigorous flames shot up even higher, quickly changing from red to blue. At the same time, intense heat spread out, causing even Master Lin, who had been smithing for the better part of his life, to feel unbearably hot. Yet Master Lin couldn't be concerned with that. His eyes were fixed on the blue flames, filled with disbelief. pure blue flame. How is this possible? His own furnace was handcrafted by himself. He was clear about its capabilities. It simply could not produce such pure blue flames. After all, this was the stuff of legends, the pure blue flame that every forger dreamed of. It's that medicine liquid. Master Lin realized almost instantly that the transformation had to be caused by the liquid that Lu Qing had dropped into the furnace. He stared intently at the porcelain bottle in Lu Qing's hand, his eyes blazing with desire. What sort of treasure liquid was this that it could give rise to the legendary pure blue flame? Master, proceed. Lu Qing, however, did not pay attention to Master Lin's gaze, but simply gave a light shout. Master Lin jerked to attention, quickly gathering his heart and spirit, and controlling the bellows with all his might. Lu Qing stared intently at the furnace, and seeing that the flame within was showing signs of changing from green to red, he dropped another drop of medicine liquid into it to maintain its pure green. In the following time, whenever the flame in the furnace showed signs of weakening, Lu Qing would add a drop of fire-burning liquid to keep the furnace fire pure green. Thus, under the continuous refining of the green flame, 10 breaths later, the outer heaven-fallen iron finally began to change, slowly turning red. Seeing this, a slight smile appeared on the corners of Lu Qing's mouth. This fire-burning liquid was a peculiar medicine liquid that the Lihua sect had researched in the past that could stimulate the flame and greatly increase the flame temperature. The purpose was to allow even disciples of the sect who had not cultivated true fire to control higher-level flames and forge divine weapons. In the cultivation era, this was not considered a particularly remarkable method. But now, with the decline of immortal Tao and the extinction of cultivators who possessed true fire, the value of this fire-burning liquid suddenly soared. It became the only method he could use to melt the outer heaven-fallen iron. The outer heaven-fallen iron in the furnace gradually turned red, and after dozens of breaths, it finally became glowing red. Lu Qing did not delay, immediately took it out with tongs, placed it on the anvil, stretched out his hand to grab the heaviest hammer, and, with the momentum of Mount Tai pressing down, smashed it down fiercely. Clang! Under Lu Qing's surging power, sparks flew, and a loud sound erupted, reaching miles away, and the entire backyard of Zhu Exian workshop trembled. Master Lin and his disciples all felt their hearts pound. That strike from Lu Qing was much more ferocious than when he had been forging the 1,000 refined sword mold. If the anvil were not sturdy enough, it might have been crushed and ruined by Lu Qing's blow. Under such a fierce hammer skill, even divine iron like the outer heaven-fallen iron, fully heated to red-hot, was smashed and deformed by a single hammer blow. At the sight, Master Lin's eyelids twitched. Another hammer, another refinement. It was incredible that young Master Lu could achieve one hammer, one refinement even with divine iron like the outer heaven-fallen iron. Clang! One hammer brought success, and Lu Qing, without pause, flipped his hand and smashed down another hammer blow. Clang! 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 As Lu Qing continued to forge, the loud sounds kept ringing out and spreading. Such commotion immediately disturbed the community. It prompted the nearby people to come out of their houses and look towards Zhu Exian workshop with astonishment and trepidation. Was it Thunder God thundering? Or what was Zhu Exian workshop doing to produce such terrifying sounds? Alas, no one could answer that question for the time being. In order to allow Lu Qing to forge attentively, Master Lin had already temporarily closed Zhu Exian workshop and ordered the disciples to stand guard, not letting outsiders enter. Unless someone forced their way in, they could not see what was happening in the backyard. But as the forging master who ranked first in the county, Master Lin's status was high. Without clear understanding, ordinary people were truly reluctant to offend him rashly. Thus, despite their alarm, under the obstruction of the Zhu Exian workshop disciples, the crowd could only suppress their curiosity, letting the loud sounds continue. However, what no one expected was that the duration of these loud sounds far exceeded their imagination. They actually continued for more than 2 hours before suddenly ceasing. Chapter 232. Divine weapon forged 1,000 times, the embryo of a magical treasure, returns. Zhu Exian workshop's backyard was silent. Everyone gazed intently at the location of furnace number 1. There, Master Lin was panting heavily, drenched in sweat, looking as if he was on the verge of collapse. Despite his cultivation having reached the pinnacle of the muscle-bone realm, running the bellows for more than 2 hours straight and having to concentrate on controlling the temperature still seemed almost too much to handle. Lu Qing likewise was drenched in sweat, with slightly labored breathing, having expended quite a bit of energy. This outer heaven-fallen iron was not like ordinary mortal iron. Hammering it even once drained a significant amount of his heart power. As a result, even he felt considerably fatigued after shaping the piece of outer heaven-fallen iron. However, both men, though weary, possessed high spirits. Their eyes gleamed as they gazed at the iron anvil and stand. On it, the piece of outer heaven-fallen iron that Lu Qing had brought had completely transformed. It had turned into a rough embryo of a black long sword, with a simple design similar to the one Lu Qing had previously used. Of course, what astonished Master Lin the most were the patterns on the sword that seemed to resemble ripples on water, flames, and even lightning. They appeared natural, and at a glance, they seemed to emit a mysterious aura that captivated the soul. The patterns emerged naturally as if bestowed by heaven. This sword embryo has already entered the ranks of divine weapons, and it is among the finest, Master Lin stated admiringly. His eyes were full of fascination as he looked at the strange patterns on the sword. Having worked with metal for most of his life and forged countless blades, it was his first time seeing the real patterns of a divine weapon. Lu Qing was also intently observing the rough sword embryo. Then, amidst the intensely bright red light, a trace of purple so faint it was almost imperceptible emerged into his sight. Divine weapon blade embryo, forged from outer heaven-fallen iron, hammered over 10,000 times. This sword embryo has reached the top-level divine weapon level. Infinite tolerance. The material of outer heaven-fallen iron is special, with extreme inclusivity. This sword embryo can harbor multiple force characteristics: metal, wood, water, earth, wind, fire, lightning. Nothing is inadmissible. Unbreakable. This sword embryo is extremely durable. Once properly sharpened, it can slice through iron as if it were mud, effortlessly cut through water and split mountains. To think there's a hint of purple. Lu Qing was extremely surprised as he looked at the information that emerged from the sword embryo. Indeed, the exotic treasure that even the Li Hua sect had coveted and greatly revered. This outer heaven-fallen iron, now merely forged into a rough embryo, already revealed a wisp of purple superpower light. Bear in mind his Chengquan Qi bag in his possession, as well as the leaving fire tripod found in the underground chamber of the Wei family. These two spiritual artifacts were only purple in color. This revealed the immense potential of the sword embryo. And the information that emerged from the embryo also confirmed this. It was not only capable of embracing various forces but could also continuously evolve, truly nothing short of miraculous. Lu Qing naturally did not think this was due to his forging skills, even though everyone from Zhu Exian Workshop admired him greatly. But he was well aware of his own limitations. His forging skills were just at the beginning, and compared to the masters of artifact refining from the Li Hua sect, they were worlds apart. The fact that this sword embryo reached such a quality was 99% due to the extraordinary nature of the outer heaven-fallen iron. The material was simply too outstanding. Divine weapon! The people standing outside, upon hearing Master Lin's words, all had their mouths agape. Even Wei Xinghe was completely shaken and taken aback. Weapons of the divine weapon level, even for their Wei family, they had only one. And that was the sidearm used by the ancestral founder. Who would have thought that Lu Qing would so easily forge one? Perhaps this was something that not even the true casting grandmasters in Central State could achieve. Young Master Lu, would you need the services of our Zhu Exian workshop to polish and sharpen this sword? Master Lin became even more humble toward Lu Qing and cautiously asked, "No need for that. I have another use for this sword and won't be sharpening it just yet. Please, Master Lin, could you craft a scabbard for me?" Lu Qing shook his head. Understanding the potential of the sword embryo, it would be inappropriate to sharpen it rashly. Moreover, such a divine weapon no longer required manual sharpening. Once Lu Qing truly refined it, the divine edge would reveal itself, peerlessly sharp. That's easy, young master. Rest assured, I will have the scabbard ready by tomorrow and send it to the mansion. Upon hearing Lu Qing's response, Master Lin felt somewhat disappointed, but also secretly relieved. Frankly, if Lu Qing had really handed over the sword embryo for him to sharpen, he might not have dared to do it. After all, this was a divine weapon blade embryo, something that even a casting grandmaster might not manage to create in a lifetime. He was just a mere casting master, not even a master of casting. How could he dare to sharpen such a blade? Lu Qing took a piece of cloth from Master Lin, wrapped the sword embryo up, and slung it on his back, ready to leave with Wei Xinghe. Originally, Lu Qing had wanted to forge another treasure sword for his master, but the outer heaven-fallen iron was too extraordinary. Simply forging one sword embryo had already drained most of his energy. The treasure sword for his master would have to be forged another day. When Lu Qing and Wei Xinghe emerged from Zhu Exian workshop, they saw that many people had gathered outside. Among them were some martial artists with considerable qi blood strength. With a brief thought, he realized that the commotion he had made forging the sword embryo had likely alarmed some interested parties nearby. He did not offer any explanation and directly left with Wei Xinghe. The spies waiting outside had intended to inquire what exactly had transpired in Zhu Exian workshop. However, upon seeing Lu Qing and Wei Xinghe, they were stunned on the spot, gawking at them. Their earlier thoughts vanished, not daring to arise again. Therefore, no one dared to stop them as they left, only watching them depart with awe-filled gazes, not daring to move. Phew! Only after the figures of Lu Qing and his companion had completely disappeared did the spies exhale deeply, sharing bitter smiles as they wiped cold sweat from their brows. Even the thought of entering Zhu Exian workshop to seek information was abandoned. Without thinking, they knew that the morning's tumultuous events in Zhu Exian workshop must have involved Lu Qing and Wei Xinghe, and the identities of these two were more significant than one another. Especially Lu Qing, who had now been marked by all forces in the city as a person not to be provoked, his significance even surpassing that of Wei Mansion. Who would dare to recklessly investigate matters involving them? If they learned something they weren't supposed to know, it could truly be fatal. Lu Qing was unaware that he had been designated a taboo figure among the city's various forces. In the following days, after recovering his energy, he made 2 more trips to Zhu Exian workshop. In addition to creating some small trinkets, he used an exotic iron from Zhu Exian workshop's collection to forge another divine weapon for his master, reaching the refinement of a top-level divine weapon. However, the potential of this divine weapon sword paled in comparison to his war saber. It could only be considered an ordinary divine weapon with almost no possibility of evolution. It wasn't that Lu Qing did not want to forge a treasure sword of outer heaven-fallen iron for his master, but the remaining pieces of outer heaven-fallen iron in his Chengquan Qi bag were too large. With his current ability, cutting outer heaven-fallen iron was still too difficult. Furthermore, the fire-burning liquid he had prepared before was almost completely used up. Without fire liquid-induced Qing flames, the furnace of Zhu Exian workshop alone could not melt the outer heaven-fallen iron. Thus, Lu Qing could only settle for the second best, spending a hefty sum to purchase an exotic iron treasured by Master Lin, to forge an ordinary divine weapon for his master. Of course, despite being an ordinary divine weapon, old Dr. Chun was extremely surprised when he received this gift. Even Wei Shanhai was shocked when he saw that sword, because he realized that the quality of this divine weapon was not a bit inferior to the war saber he used. Learning that the divine weapon was forged by Lu Qing, Wei Shanhai was stunned speechless for a long time. After creating that divine weapon, Lu Qing and the others stayed for several more days. One day, they finally proposed their departure to Wei Mansion. Chapter 233, Leaving and Reluctance. Dr. Lu Xiao? Old Dr. Chun? Are you really leaving? In Wei Mansion, Wei Zian heard that Lu Qing and his company were planning to leave and immediately rushed to Yuzhu Courtyard. Then he saw that both his father and mother were there. Indeed, we have overstayed our time in your honorable residence. It is time to return. Otherwise, the villagers might start to worry. Lu Qing nodded. During their trip, they had stayed in the county for nearly half a month. Although they had entrusted someone from Wei Mansion to send a message back to Jili Village, the villagers could not help but worry after such a long absence. Now that the matters in the county had been settled to perfection, there was naturally no need for them to linger in the county any longer. And while the county was not bad, it imposed many restrictions, making many things inconvenient. During this time, even when Lu Qing practiced his martial arts, he had to be extremely careful not to disturb others. So home was better, where one could delve into the mountains and regardless of the upheaval, not bother anyone else. Even old Dr. Chun felt a strong urge to return. There were still a few patients in Jili Village whose illnesses he had not fully cured before leaving. Before departing, he had prepared their medications in advance, but they were probably running out by now. He needed to go back for follow-up consultations. Young Master Lu, what are you saying? Having you and the elder doctor stay here has been an honor for our Wei Mansion. So where does this talk of disturbance come from? Wei Xinghe hurriedly said. He would love for Lu Qing and his company to live in the mansion indefinitely. Yes, young Master Lu, as long as you wish, you can stay for as long as you like. How could you ever be a disturbance? Mrs. Wei added. She did not want Lu Qing and his party to leave, especially little Yen. Teaching little Yen to read and write, and spending so much time together, she had nearly come to consider little Yen as her own daughter. Thank you all for your kindness, but we have been away from home for a long time. It's also time for us to go back and check on things. In the end, no matter how Wei Xinghe and the others tried to keep them, Lu Qing and old Dr. Chun made their intention to leave clear. Left with no choice, Wei Xinghe had to have preparations made. As for Wei Shanhai, he had not appeared at all, and it was unclear whether he was not in the mansion or simply indifferent to their departure. Before long, Wei Xinghe and the others saw Lu Qing and his party off at the city gates. You have been living quite comfortably, haven't you? Seeing the noticeably fatter ox brought to the cart by Wei Mansion servants, Lu Qing teased with a laugh. Moo! The ox, delighted at the sight of Lu Qing and his group, gave a gentle moo and affectionately nuzzled Lu Qing's hand with its head. Lu Qing began taking several boxes from the servants of the Wei family and placing them onto the ox cart. They were mostly special local products he had bought for the villagers. As for the generous thanks that Wei Mansion had prepared, they had only symbolically accepted a little, graciously declining the rest. At the realm old Dr. Chun and Lu Qing had reached, they no longer had much need for gold and silver. There were large chests of gold and silver at home that they had not yet figured out how to use. Little Yen, let's go. Having finished loading, Lu Qing called out. Goodbye, Auntie. Little Yen is going home now. Clutching little Yen said goodbye to Mrs. Wei somewhat reluctantly. Over these days, she had grown deeply attached to Mrs. Wei by being in her company every day. Mrs. Wei felt even more reluctant to let go, her tears almost falling. Little Yen, be good. When Auntie has some free time, I'll visit you in Jili Village. Really? Then little Yen will wait for you at home. Little Yen's eyes sparkled. Hearing these words, Mrs. Wei's heart sank, and tears nearly poured out, managing only to nod with emotion. Of course, it's true. The little one immediately brightened up, jumping and running towards Lu Qing before being lifted onto the ox cart. Old Dr. Chun still wore his bamboo hat, sitting at the front. Due to living in seclusion and staying deliberately low-key, other than the people of Wei Mansion, no one else in the county knew that this suddenly emerged, mysterious figure from the innate realm was the famed old Dr. Chun. Family Master Wei, you don't have to see us off any further. After accompanying a traveler for 1,000 miles, there must be a parting. Let us say goodbye here. Lu Qing bowed courteously. Brother Lu, once I've dealt with my family's affairs, I'll come to the big market to mooch some food and drink from you. Ma Gu, who had just arrived at the gate, said heartily. Haha, that would certainly be nice. I'll prepare a couple of good dishes for you then. Lu Qing laughed heartily. With laughter, old Dr. Chun snapped the whip, and with a crisp sound, the ox cart slowly started moving out of the gates. Just as when it had first arrived, the cart slowly approached from the distance. Except now there were 2 or 3 fewer people on it. Mrs. Wei and Wei Zian watched as the ox cart slowly moved further away, their eyes tinged with redness. Initially, they had returned with a heart full of anxiety. Now, the very cart that had escorted them all the way was leaving. In that moment, a flood of emotions welled up in their hearts, a mixture of sentiments. "Goodbye, Auntie." When the ox cart had traveled quite a distance and was barely visible, little Yen stood up, waving vigorously. As her tender voice carried from afar, Mrs. Wei's tears finally broke free and streamed down her face. When Lu Qing and his party had left the city, they had done so openly, making no attempt to hide their departure. Therefore, the news of their leaving soon spread throughout the city's every corner. "They've really gone?" Inside County Lord Mansion, Yen Songhai looked at his subordinate, who had come to report with a grave expression. "Yes, I saw it with my own eyes. Young Master Lu left on an ox cart, and that young lady was also in the cart, driven by what seemed to be an older man. Many people in the city saw it too," the subordinate confirmed. Chapter 234. Leaving and Reluctance _2. "Did you see the old man's face?" Yen Songhai hastily asked. "I didn't see it," his confidant answered. "The old man wore a wide-brimmed hat that hid his face, and I could only hear his voice, which was quite elderly and made it impossible to see his face clearly. He's still hiding his identity." Yen Songhai felt disappointed and waved his hand. "All right, you may leave." After his confidant left, Yen Songhai sat there, pondered for a while, then suddenly stood up and went to the small building where the cloth-clothed youth lived. Just as he was about to knock on the door, he heard a faint voice from the side. "What is it?" Turning his head, he saw his good friend standing in a nearby pavilion, holding a scroll in his hand. Yen Songhai smiled and walked over. "I just received news that young Master Lu and his master have already left the county." The cloth-clothed youth nodded, showing no sign of surprise on his face. "Ji Rue, since they've left, can you now tell me who that mysterious innate realm master of young Master Lu is?" Ever since the cloth-clothed youth mentioned that the sudden emergence of an innate realm figure was someone he knew, Yen Songhai had immediately started an investigation. However, after checking all the martial arts experts he knew, he still had no clue. None of their identities matched that of the mysterious innate. Later, he tried to start from Lu Qing, but it was equally baffling, because this one was even more mysterious. Nobody knew Lu Qing's background. It was as if he had appeared out of thin air before coming to the county. Not a single rumor about this youth existing in the world before that. Thus, Yen Songhai was extremely curious about the identities of these two. The cloth-clothed youth remained silent, just quietly looking at him. Yen Songhai felt a catch in his heart and forced himself to calm down. "Earlier you talked about that millennium change being so terrifying that I couldn't inquire. But surely I can know the identity of this mysterious innate, since you said I know him." The cloth-clothed youth looked at Yen Songhai for a while, knowing he would not rest until he resolved this matter. So, he sighed helplessly and said, "It wouldn't hurt to tell you. The innate realm master, indeed you know him very well. He is old Dr. Chan Songqing, whom you once hosted." "What?" Yen Songhai's eyes suddenly widened, his whole person completely stunned by this answer. It took him a long while to come back to his senses. "Ji Rue, are you sure that the innate realm master is elder Dr. Chan Songqing?" Yen Songhai asked with some difficulty. The cloth-clothed youth glanced at him sideways, seemingly disdainful to answer that question. "But how is that possible?" Yen Songhai swallowed, still unable to believe it. Elder Dr. Chan, though his martial arts cultivation is decent, having achieved great success in the internal organ realm, his age has already passed the peak of Qi blood. Maintaining his realm without regression is already difficult. How could he possibly have achieved consecutive breakthroughs and entered the innate realm in such a short period of time? Moreover, to be so powerful that even Wang Tsangi, an old innate realm expert, didn't dare to cross him. The more Yen Songhai thought about it, the more unbelievable it seemed. Speaking of which, I was surprised too, the cloth-clothed youth sighed. This elder Dr. Chun indeed is no ordinary person. According to the information I've gathered, he has spent his life doing good deeds, treating and salvaging lives, and can truly be described as a doctor with medical benevolence, a great benevolent man. Years of good deeds, it seems, have allowed him to accumulate merit light around him. If I'm not mistaken, it is precisely with that merit light that, even when his chi blood was declining in his old age, he was still able to defy nature, continuously break through, and step into the innate realm that countless martial artists dream of. One can say, all these results are from his vast accumulated potential, albeit his path of accumulation differed somewhat from the typical martial arts path. Merit light obtained through good deeds? At this, Yen Songhai was thoroughly dumbstruck, because he simply couldn't understand what that meant. Unfortunately, this time the cloth-clothed youth did not further explain. He shook his clothes lightly, placing the scroll on the stone table inside the pavilion. All right, since young Master Lu and the others have left, I should leave too. Songhai, thank you for your hospitality over these days. You're leaving too? Yen Songhai was caught off guard, quite shocked. Yes, I have stayed in Song County long enough and it's time to go. However, before I leave, there are a few words I want to say to you. The cloth-clothed youth's face turned serious. This made Yen Songhai, who had intended to ask him to stay, unable to speak and could only listen quietly. Hi you, to be honest, this time coming to Song County, I am disappointed. I initially thought that during these years in Song County you were laying low, biding your time, honing yourself. But what I see is that you are not only wasting time but also regressing, far from the person you once were. I don't mean to be rude, but as of now, you simply aren't qualified to compete with your brothers any longer. Therefore, I advise you to give up that notion in your heart and just honestly remain here as the Lord County Master. As long as you behave, I don't think the royal capital will pay any attention to this place. That way, your mother won't have to worry every day, fearful that you will stray from the right path. The words of the cloth-clothed youth rendered Yen Hai Yu utterly silent, unable to speak for a long time. All right, think it over yourself, I'm leaving. The cloth-clothed youth didn't wait for him, vanishing from the pavilion immediately after saying what he wanted to say. Shi Hui.
Yen Hai Yu gasped in surprise.
Lastly, there's one more thing, remember? Don't provoke young Master Lu. The voice gradually faded away, leaving only Yen Hai Yu in the pavilion, deeply melancholic. Brother, that flower is so beautiful. And that one over there too. Really pretty. The ox cart traveled forward, with the scenery shifting around them. Little Yen, who was initially a bit sad from parting with Mrs. Wei, instantly cast aside her worries. Pointing at the wildflowers and weeds along the road, she kept calling out to Lu Qing. Even though she had seen them once already on the journey here, the little one still found them fresh. They are beautiful. Seeing her happy, Lu Qing also relaxed. Children truly, their sorrow comes fast and goes fast. As for little Li, it was already joyfully hopping around the ox cart, darting in and out of sight, bursting with excitement. During the stay at Wei Mansion, little Li always remembered Lu Qing's instructions not to display its talent skill arbitrarily. Hence all this while, other than showing great spiritual nature, it never did anything else out of the ordinary. Every day it was harmless, held by little Yen, accompanying her in reading, writing, eating, and playing. Other than being very spirited to others at the Wei Mansion, it was just like any other ordinary pet. Even Mrs. Wei, who guessed that little Li was extraordinary, had never seen its true abilities. This was exactly why little Li was somewhat stifled. Now that they had finally left the Wei Mansion, it couldn't wait to frolic to its heart's content. Owing to an early departure and no delays on the road. This time, Lu Qing and his group didn't have to spend the night on the road, but instead hurried along, arriving back at Jili village just before dusk. We're almost home. Seeing the increasingly familiar surroundings, little Yan's expression turned excited. Having been away so long, she too missed everyone back in the village. Little Li was also standing on Lu Qing's shoulder, its eyes shining as it gazed in the direction of Jili village. Everything was great at Wei Mansion, where it could eat its fill of fish every day. But somehow it still preferred its days in Jili village. We are finally back. Elder Dr. Chun had already taken off his conical hat at this point, looking ahead and sighing deeply. Having lived so many years in Jili village, he had grown quite fond of it. Master, I'll go take down the red rope. As the ox cart approached the village entrance, Lu Qing leapt off. After removing the red rope from the tree and placing it back under the stone slab, the villagers finally noticed the ox cart. Quickly, the entire village started to stir. Chapter 235, The Realm of Will, Furnace Visualization Method. Indeed, there's no place like home. In the early morning, Lu Qing stepped out of his house, stretched lazily, and felt extremely content. He couldn't help but smile when he remembered what had happened yesterday. At dusk the day before, their return had caused quite a stir in the village. The villagers all came running out, surrounding him and his master with endless questions. They had no choice. They had told everyone they were just going to the county city for the market, but ended up not returning for over 10 days. Despite the Wei family having sent people to deliver messages, Elder Zhang and the others were still skeptical and worried. Now that they had finally returned, they wanted to know all the details. In the end, after Lu Qing explained everything and distributed the specialties they had brought back, everyone realized it was a false alarm and slowly dispersed. Though it took quite a bit of talking, Lu Qing's heart was still warm. After all, feeling cared for was quite a nice feeling. After collecting his thoughts, he practiced nourishing body boxing twice to stretch his muscles, and then prepared breakfast in the kitchen. Seeing that little Yen and the others would still need a while to wake up, Lu Qing employed his movement technique, and within a few breaths, he had already arrived at the bamboo forest behind the mountain. Sensing that there was no one around, Lu Qing's divine soul slightly stirred, and the next moment, a war saber appeared in his hand. However, this war saber looked rather rough, both unpolished and without a sharpened edge. It was the divine weapon blade embryo that Lu Qing had previously forged at the Zhu Xian workshop from Outer Heaven Fallen Iron. Since then, the sword embryo had been adjusted again and fitted with a hilt. Apart from its rough appearance and lack of sharpness, it was no different from an ordinary war saber and could be used at will. With the saber in his right hand, Lu Qing's aura abruptly changed, and an intense aura of solemnity spread around him. In the next moment, as he swung the saber, he began to practice his saber technique. The sword style was profound and flowed smoothly. The swings seemed slow, but each move contained soul-shaking power. The increasingly biting aura of solemnity caused even the insects and birds around to fall silent in fear, not daring to make a sound. After practicing the four-direction saber, Lu Qing stood holding the saber, a contemplative expression on his face. According to the martial arts experience exchanged between my master and the Wei family's ancestor, once martial arts moves reach the realm of harmony of strength and gentleness with meticulous precision, the next step is to comprehend the will behind the moves. The key to this step is to ensure that one's martial arts moves are infused with a certain charm. When that charm is suffused within the moves, covered by the power of the heart and spirit, driving the moves will naturally allow you to anticipate and act before the enemy, with later actions winning over earlier ones, overpowering the weak with strength, and defeating the enemy like a bolt from the blue. Clearly, having tempered the divine soul power, I have already touched upon this realm slightly. However, due to the limitations of my divine soul power, there is a considerable journey ahead before I can fully comprehend the will. Of course, although Lu Qing was unable to grasp the complete will for the moment, he was still quite satisfied. It is known that the realm of will is typically only understood by innate realm experts. When innate realm experts step into the innate phase, they are baptized by the heaven and earth rules, which causes their divine soul power to surge. Hence, their martial arts cultivation becomes more intuitive, and comprehending the realm of will is naturally not too difficult. It was already quite an accomplishment for him to have touched upon the will, just having stepped into the inner organs realm. In the days to come, who could guarantee that before stepping into the innate realm, little Yen wouldn't attain the complete understanding of will? Moreover, what set Lu Qing apart from other martial arts experts was that, possessing superpowers, he could master any martial arts discipline at extraordinary speed regardless of what he practiced. Therefore, once he wholly grasped the realm of will, it wouldn't be a simple matter of mastering the sword intention or the saber intention. Instead, all the martial arts he practiced would become interconnected, swiftly ascending to the realm of will. So for me, cultivation is of the utmost importance. As long as the power of my divine soul increases, understanding the realm of will naturally become much easier, he said. Just right, among the legacy left by the Li Hua sect, there is a minor cultivation technique well suited for my current circumstances. The legacy obtained from the leaving fire tripod was mostly unsuitable for this era. However, a small number of techniques could still be practiced by Lu Qing with some effort. Among them was one technique particularly fitting for Lu Qing's present situation: the furnace visualization method. This was a visualization method designed for cultivators to envision themselves in a blazing furnace, to combat the flames with the power of the divine soul, to refine and strengthen their divine soul through the fire's smelting. This visualization method was a pure form of divine soul cultivation and did not rely on the circulation of spiritual energy. Hence, it could be practiced even in this era scarce of spiritual energy. However, it could only be practiced by cultivators who possessed divine soul power. The threshold for its cultivation was exceedingly high for the martial artists of the current age. After all, aside from anomalies like Lu Qing, in the process of martial arts cultivation, to forge divine soul power, one must reach the grandmaster level of inner organs perfection. Out of the countless martial artists in the world, how many could actually achieve inner organs perfection? Seated cross-legged, Lu Qing activated his superpower, searched for the furnace visualization method within his mind, and began to learn through simulation. Various insights flooded his mind, and Lu Qing quickly entered a state of cultivation. The furnace visualization method comprised 3 realms of cultivation: the baking furnace temple, the melting furnace, and finally, great success in the furnace visualization. These 3 realms, one more difficult than the last, required the cultivator to act according to their ability and visualize prudently. If one's strength was insufficient, forcefully visualizing higher-level imagery could lead to self-immolation. The furnace imagery could incinerate the heart and spirit, turning one into a living dead. Being his first cultivation attempt, Lu Qing naturally did not foolishly challenge such a high level of difficulty. On the contrary, during his initial practice, he was extremely cautious. According to the visualization method's technique, he visualized a small furnace within his heart. Furthermore, its design was quite rudimentary. If little Yen could see this imagery, she would immediately recognize it as the small stove used at home for cooking porridge. After visualizing the furnace, Lu Qing transformed himself into a strand of heart and spirit power and immersed himself into the furnace. Upon entering the furnace, Lu Qing immediately felt as though he had entered a world of fire, surrounded by roaring flames on all sides. The furnace visualization method was indeed miraculous. Although the furnace was merely a product of his visualization, an illusion, Lu Qing felt as though he was genuinely being scorched by the flames, the sensation incredibly real. It seemed as if in the next moment, the body formed by his divine soul power would melt away, completely incinerated. Lu Qing dared not be careless. He immediately recited the cultivation technique mantra silently, stabilizing his heart and spirit, silently withstanding the refining heat of the furnace. Chapter 236. Known to the world without stepping outside. In the seascape of his mind, Lu Qing found himself enclosed within a furnace. His heart and spirit were continuously tempered, evoking a feeling that in the next moment, his soul might scatter and he might perish along with his cultivation path. However, he knew that all of this was an illusion. Thus, he remained unaffected, merely reciting the cultivation technique mantra in his mind, silently enduring it all. Time passed, and the flames surrounding him gradually extinguished. the furnace dissipated, and the sliver of divine soul power returned to his acupoints. Lu Qing immediately noticed a change. He felt that his divine soul power had clearly strengthened compared to before. A hint of joy appeared in his eyes. This furnace visualization method is truly a cultivation technique from the cultivation era. Even just a first attempt at cultivation has so obviously enhanced the power of my divine soul. With such a mysterious method, to fully grasp the realm of will before reaching the innate stage is no longer an extravagant hope. Even refining the divine soul talisman is not out of reach. Thinking of the various mystical descriptions of the divine soul talisman in the Divine Talisman Sex Inheritance, Lu Qing felt a surge of excitement. Since arriving in this world and awakening his superpower, he had obtained many inheritances. Among these, the most precious were the inheritances of the Divine Talisman Sect and the Li Hua Sect. Both inheritances came from the cultivation era. But the origin of the Divine Talisman Sect's inheritance remained a mystery. Lu Qing had not been able to uncover the past of the Divine Talisman Sect in the inheritance. Even within the Li Hua Sect's inheritance, there was no mention of the Divine Talisman Sect. Lu Qing did not know which of the two sects was stronger. But in his heart, the Divine Talisman Sect was much more mysterious than the Li Hua Sect. And the Path of Runes was also more mysterious than the Li Hua Sect's techniques. Given that Lu Qing possessed extraordinary, almost cheat-like abilities, he could learn anything at an incredibly fast pace. Yet even so, he had spent a long time just to get a basic grasp of the Path of Runes. Up to now, he hadn't been able to refine a divine soul talisman. One could imagine the difficulty involved in the practice of runes. Moreover, the Path of Runes was different from ordinary cultivation methods. It stressed that all things in heaven and earth could teach one, and likewise they could all be utilized. It wasn't limited by the availability of spiritual energy and could be used even when spiritual energy was scarce, although with reduced power. With such a powerful inheritance, Lu Qing naturally wouldn't give up. So he had never slackened in his efforts to refine the divine soul talisman. It was just that due to the limitations of his divine soul power, the speed of refinement had always been slow. Now the excellent effects of the furnace visualization method allowed him to rapidly enhance his divine soul power. The complete refinement of the divine soul talisman was in sight. So how could Lu Qing not be thrilled? After fantasizing about the future for a moment and noticing that it was getting late, Lu Qing gathered his emotions, placed the war saber into his Chenkuan Qi bag, and headed home. Once home, he pulled Little Yen and Little Li out of their bed, urged them to wash up and eat breakfast. Then Lu Qing took these two little ones to the half-mountain small courtyard. "Ah Qing, Little Yen, are you heading to old Dr. Chen's place?" Along the way, villagers greeted them warmly, unable to resist taking several glances at Little Li perched on Lu Qing's shoulder. Since returning from the county, Lu Qing had not asked Little Li to conceal its identity. After all, in the county, it had revealed itself every day. Moreover, he no longer needed to worry that anyone would harm Little Li. Therefore, last night, many people in the village saw Little Li and learned that it was a pet creature raised by Lu Qing. However, because Little Li's appearance is indeed peculiar, and it possesses a remarkable spiritual nature, even though they knew of its existence, the villagers still felt astounded. "Yes, I wonder if Master has gotten up," Lu Qing said with a smile. "He must have. I just passed by the foot of the mountain and saw old Dr. Chun practicing his boxing in the yard." After exchanging a few pleasantries with the villagers, Lu Qing took the two little ones up the mountain to half-mountain small courtyard, where he found his master indeed in the yard. What surprised him was that there was another person present. Mr. Shihui. Seeing the cloth-clothed youth drinking tea with his master under the plum tree, Lu Qing was very surprised. He had not expected to encounter this person here. "Young Master Lu." The cloth-clothed youth nodded in greeting to Lu Qing with a slight smile. "Mr. Jirue, how come you are here? Has something happened in the county again?" Lu Qing couldn't help asking. In his memory, the whereabouts of this person were always somewhat elusive, and he never showed up unless there was a significant matter. And in recent days, he had also learned some information about Tianji Building from the ancestors of the Wei family, which left him quite wary of this individual. He knew that the other party not only possessed a lot of hidden information unknown to others, but he also seemed to have a superpower with extremely keen powers of insight. All is peaceful in the county, according to the message I received from Tianji Building, that Wang Cangyi has already led his disciples back to Tianzong sect. Young Master Lu don't need to worry. As for me, I have left the county and am preparing to travel elsewhere. The cloth-clothed youth explained. Then Mr. Ji Rui, what brings you here this time? Naturally, I missed the floral tea made by old Dr. Chen, the cloth-clothed youth said with a smile. The tea I got from the elder doctor that day has already been squandered by myself, and now craving it, I could only come and shamelessly ask for a few more cups to drink before I leave. Hee, that's easy. It's rare for Mr. Ji Rui to enjoy it so much. Just wait and the old man will send you some more as a farewell gift. Old Dr. Chen chuckled. Then Ji Rui would like to thank the elder doctor here, the cloth-clothed youth happily said. After securing the floral tea, the cloth-clothed youth's expression then turned serious. Of course, my visit this time is not only to ask for tea from you, elder doctor, but also to discuss a few matters with you, he said. Lu Qing. He knew that this person coming over couldn't possibly be just for a bit of floral tea. Please speak, Mr. Ji Rui. It was obvious that the elder doctor had expected this, so there was no surprise on his face. The first matter concerns young Master Lu. Concerning me? Lu Qing was taken aback. Correct. I just received news that just yesterday, the Seven Killings Tower officially issued a 7 killings order against you to carry out an assassination. 7 killings order. Lu Qing's complexion gradually grew solemn and became a bit grave. Indeed, so young Master Lu, you are now famed throughout the assassin world. You should know that 7 Killings Tower's 7 killings order is rarely issued, not even once in many decades, and countless people want to know just who has provoked the 7 Killings Tower into dispatching a 7 killings order to hunt them down. If possible, I would rather not have such fame, Lu Qing said somewhat helplessly. Being the center of attention in the assassin world, even he could not help but feel pressured. Young Master Lu, with your martial arts prowess, from the moment you decided to go to the county to save the Wei family, you were destined to rise to fame and shake the world. The cloth-clothed youth shook his head and said, The second matter I want to discuss still relates to you. Oh, Lu Qing raised an eyebrow. Could there be something worse than an assassination attempt? This time it should be good news. The cloth-clothed youth took a scroll from his bosom and placed it on the table. This is a list called the Hidden Dragon List. It is a list compiled by Tianji Building, gathering young talents and genius martial artists from all over the world. It is a list that countless young martial artists dream of being included in. And young Master Lu, you are on the list. Chapter 237. The List of Fate's Favor. Rankings. Hidden Dragon List? Lu Qing looked at the scroll on the stone table. May I ask, Mr. Ji Rui, what is the Hidden Dragon List? The Hidden Dragon List is a ranking compiled by Tianji Building, selecting the top 100 postnatal realm martial artists from all over who have the most hope of advancing to the innate realm. Once a martial artist enters the innate realm, not only does their lifespan greatly increase, but they also possess various extraordinary abilities, as if they were flying dragons in the sky, vast and boundless. Hence, the list is named Hidden Dragon. Lu Qing. He had thought that with such a resounding name like Hidden Dragon List, it would be something extraordinary. Turns out it's just a preliminary list for the innate realm. Had Lu Qing been an ordinary country lad, perhaps he would have found the Hidden Dragon List impressive. But he wasn't, so he could only maintain a polite smile. It wasn't that Lu Qing looked down on the list. Rather, as someone possessing multiple inheritances, he knew that on the path of cultivation, the innate realm was just the beginning and far from being considered the achievement of a true dragon. Thus, he found it difficult to evaluate this list. What kind of person was the cloth-clothed youth? Seeing Lu Qing's calm demeanor, he could tell right away that the young man wasn't impressed by the Hidden Dragon List, and so he fell slightly silent. He suddenly remembered that the youth before him was unlike any martial arts prodigies he had ever seen. His talent was devilishly overwhelming. To other postnatal realm martial artists and even martial arts grandmasters, the innate realm might be a formidable chasm. To cross it, one must exert tremendous effort and blood, and with indispensable luck, one might break through. But for Lu Qing it was hardly a difficult realm to reach. For a genius who was almost certain to step into the innate realm, was it really a matter of honor to be on the hidden dragon list? The cloth-clothed youth felt Lu Qing's thoughts, so he could only keep to his silence. The courtyard suddenly fell into a somewhat awkward atmosphere. Lu Qing sensed this awkwardness and felt it was somewhat impolite to treat a guest in this manner. After some thought, he still asked, "Mr. Ji Rui, may I know what place I hold on this hidden dragon list?" However, what Lu Qing hadn't expected was that once he asked the question, the cloth-clothed youth became even more silent. After a long while, he replied, 29th. Lu Qing was somewhat surprised. It seems the world is truly full of hidden tigers and dragons, with numerous martial arts prodigies. I wonder, who are the martial arts experts ranked ahead of me? Most of those ranked before you are martial arts grandmasters who have reached the perfection of the postnatal realm for quite some time. Some have even tempered their own divine soul power, and are just a step away from entering the innate realm. Lu Qing nodded. The breakthrough from the postnatal realm to the innate realm, one of the most crucial keys is divine soul power. Since these martial arts masters have come this far, they are only separated by a thin line from the innate realm. It made sense for them to be ranked ahead of him. What Lu Qing didn't know was that on the hidden dragon list, not only those ranked before him, but most of those ranked after him were also martial arts grandmasters, with the least skilled among them being powerful warriors who achieved the great success of the internal organs realm. And nearly all were famous, having considerable reputations in the world. However, the cloth-clothed youth, realizing that the hidden dragon list didn't matter much to Lu Qing, had no heart to speak further of it. The hidden dragon list rankings are updated every 6 months. This copy, I'll leave here. Young Master Lu, when you're bored, you can have a look to acquaint yourself with the martial arts experts of this day and age. The cloth-clothed youth handed the scroll to Lu Qing. After receiving it, Lu Qing put it away without looking at it immediately. The cloth-clothed youth didn't mind and instead said, "Old Dr. Chan, the last matter Mr. Ji Rui has to mention concerns you." "Oh? Please speak freely." "Within the next 10 years, the world may see great upheaval. Chaos will arise, and the struggle between good and evil may rear its head again. Even Holy Mountain may find it difficult to cope. Elder Doctor, you possess an opportunity to cultivate in the holy pool. If you do not wish to forfeit it, it would be best to use this chance within 5 years. Otherwise, you might waste this fortune." The cloth-clothed youth's expression was grave. "Great chaos will arise. What do you mean by that?" The elder doctor's expression sharpened as he asked. "What exactly the chaos will be, I too am unaware, but this is the prophecy left by the founder of Tianji Building, and it should not be mistaken." After some thought, the elder doctor replied, "The old man understands. If nothing arises within these few years, I plan to make a trip to Central State." These recent days, through exchanges with Wei Shanhe, the elder doctor had learned a lot. Moreover, upon hearing that Lu Qing had received the 7 Killings order from the 7 Killings Tower, it made him take cultivation more to heart. "That's good to hear. It's getting late, elder doctor. I should also take my leave." Seeing that all the matters he had come to address were settled, the cloth-clothed youth prepared to bid farewell. "So soon to leave? Ah Qing. Go inside and fetch some floral tea for Mr. Ji Rui to take with him." Once the cloth-clothed youth had left, Lu Qing finally took out the hidden dragon list. He still did not directly open it to read but activated his superpower, focusing his gaze. A faint golden hue emerged from the scroll. Gold! Lu Qing was surprised. It was merely a list, and yet it bore a gold quality? Interesting. Lu Qing looked at the few words on it. Hidden Dragon List. Rankings based on information collected by Tianji Building from numerous postnatal realm martial artists worldwide. Calculated and compiled. Chapter 238. List of Fate. Rank 2. This list records the top 100 postnatal martial artists worldwide who are considered by Tianji Building to have the most potential to break through to the innate realm. Once ranked on the Hidden Dragon list, one gains attention from people all around the world and receives an imperceptible enhancement of fate, which makes their cultivation journey smoother. Does this Hidden Dragon list actually have the effect of gathering fate? After reading the few lines of information, Lu Qing was genuinely surprised. Previously, he found it a bit odd that martial artists held the Hidden Dragon list in such high regard from the way the cloth-clothed youth spoke. So that was the case. It seemed that his inclusion on this list wasn't entirely bad news. Lu Qing unrolled the scroll, and immediately he searched downward. Then, at the 29th position, he found his own name. Song State Lu Qing, 17 years old, initiate of the internal organ realm. The information was extremely concise, revealing nothing more than his name, age, and cultivation level. Lu Qing then looked at the other names on the list. Their displayed information was similar to his. At most, some entries included the sect or family to which the person belonged. Other information, such as the cultivation techniques practiced and preferred weapons, was completely undisclosed. Lu Qing was quite satisfied with this. It showed that Tianji Building was discreet and did not reveal too much about those ranked. He searched the list again and indeed found a few familiar names. One was the cloth-clothed youth's name, which ranked above his, in the 17th position. There were also two others, Wei Xinghe and the stout man from Heavenly Tsang sect, Zhao Xiong. The rankings of these two were not far apart, one ranked 78 and the other 81. However, even two martial arts grandmasters who had reached perfection in the internal organ realm could only rank so low. It appeared that there were indeed numerous martial arts experts in the world. Lu Qing looked further and found that there were even names of disciples from the Seven Killings Tower. The most formidable among them was someone named Tan Lang, who was ranked 9th on the list, impressively. Most importantly, Lu Qing noticed a pattern. None over the age of 30 were ranked in the top 50. Even in the latter 50, the oldest was merely 48 years old, which was still considered prime age for a martial artist. In other words, the Hidden Dragon list was actually a very youthful list. The martial artists listed were all in their prime state. It makes sense, this Hidden Dragon list ranks those most likely to break through to the innate realm of martial arts experts. Once someone passes 30 years, their body's chi blood begins to gradually decline from its peak, and the probability of breaking through to the innate realm correspondingly decreases. The rankings of Wei Family Master and that Zhao Xiong are probably affected by their ages as well. Lu Qing briefly pondered and understood the underlying reasons. Not everyone has the talent and fortune of his master. His master, who created nourishing body boxing, even though being of older age, had always maintained excellent energy. He disliked competing with others and nearly had no health issues or injuries. After taking Earth Vein spiritual liquid, not only had his body recovered to its peak, but he had also successfully cultivated divine soul power. Moreover, he was protected by merit light that allowed him to step into the innate realm in his old age, creating a miracle that seemed almost impossible. For other older martial artists who had surpassed the age of 50 or 60, without the accumulation and fortune like his masters, attempting another breakthrough would probably be harder than reaching the skies. This is why the Hidden Dragon list did not feature names of aged grandmasters. After briefly browsing through the Hidden Dragon list, Lu Qing rolled it up, planning to study it more thoroughly when he had time. "Master, what are you thinking about?" After putting away the Hidden Dragon list, Lu Qing looked up and saw his master with a slightly furrowed brow, lost in thought. "I was thinking about what Mr. Ji Rue just said. Previously, in Wei Mansion, I also heard people discussing the Millennium Turmoil. I wonder if it's the same event he mentioned where great chaos is about to unfold." The elder doctor was somewhat troubled. After hearing what the cloth-clothed youth said about the upcoming great chaos, for some reason, he felt a sense of premonition rising in his heart. It seemed to relate to something extremely important. Lu Qing thought for a moment and finally said, "Perhaps the disciple knows a little about what Mr. Ji Rue was talking about." "Ah, Qing, you know?" The elder doctor raised his head in astonishment. The disciple isn't entirely sure, but recently, I found a peculiar book in an old bookstore in the county. It recorded some very unusual information. According to what the carefree wanderer said, if his calculations are correct, the so-called spiritual energy resurgence might be happening in our era. And what Mr. Ji Rui described as the millennium turmoil and the arising great chaos might be referring to this. Lu Qing recounted some of the things recorded in the casual notes left by the carefree wanderer. The cultivation era, spiritual energy resurgence? After listening to Lu Qing's explanation, the elder doctor was dumbfounded. He never imagined that this matter would even relate to events from tens of thousands of years ago in ancient times. However, the cultivation era, does it truly exist? And are there really immortals in this world? The elder doctor felt somewhat incredulous. Although he was an innate realm expert himself, he had always regarded tales of gods and immortals as mere legends. Now, hearing that gods and immortals truly existed, it was indeed a significant shock to his beliefs. The disciple also finds it unbelievable, but after witnessing certain things, I feel that it may not be so illusory, like the big cauldron in the underground chamber of the Wei family. For instance, Lu Qing reminded. The elder doctor suddenly came to a realization. Indeed, the big cauldron of the Wei family was truly miraculous. Not only did it contain a mysterious Taoist charm, but according to what Wei Shanhai said, it originally only had the size of a fingertip and yet had grown so large over 100 years. A self-growing big cauldron, no matter how you look at it, does not seem like an ordinary object. Perhaps only those celestial beings with profound divine skills could create such a mysterious artifact. Looking at it this way, what Mr. Ji Rui said about the millennium turmoil must indeed refer to this matter of spiritual energy resurgence. The elder doctor sighed. Originally, he thought that what the cloth-clothed youth talked about was at most conflicts between sect forces or perhaps another war between commanderies was about to erupt. He didn't expect it to involve such a monumental shift of heaven and earth. But faced with such a monumental shift, how should they respond? For a moment, the elder doctor felt somewhat lost. Master, there's no need to worry too much. If the sky falls, there will be tall ones who will hold it up. Lu Qing, seeing his master's bewilderment, offered some comfort. Although Mr. Ji Rui did not specify the cause of the great change, I think he surely knows something, and even if he isn't clear, the powerful sects behind him must have some understanding. These sects certainly wouldn't want the world to descend into chaos, so let's just wait and see how things unfold. The elder doctor came to a realization. Indeed, if the carefree wanderer could find the jade, those sects with thousands of years of inheritance, possessing vast resources and power, must know even more hidden information. They probably have prepared well in advance for the great change's arrival. In that case, why was he worrying here? Let it be, after all, we are just doctors, people of humble words and limited influence. Treating and saving people is our duty. The grand affairs of the world should be left to those major sects to worry about. After reflecting on this, the elder doctor somewhat relieved himself and spoke in a light-hearted tone. Seeing this, Lu Qing secretly breathed a sigh of relief. It was good that his master, though kind-hearted, always considered himself merely a doctor and did not harbor any grand ambitions to save the world. Otherwise, if he got too fixated, Lu Qing really didn't know how he would be able to advise him. While Lu Qing and his master were having a casual conversation, he was unaware that at this moment, the outside world was being turned upside down due to the hidden dragon list rankings just released by the Tianji building. The reason, naturally, was because his name appeared on it. Chapter 239. A name that shakes the world, the madman. Tianji building's hidden dragon list had always received considerable attention from various forces throughout the world. After all, martial artists who made it onto the list represented a significant probability of breaking through to the innate realm. Innate realm experts were exceptionally powerful. Even within the top sects, they were considered pillars of strength and were not to be underestimated by any force. Countless martial artists around the world took pride in making it onto the hidden dragon list, for that signified true fame and recognition throughout the land. Most martial artists diligently practice cultivation, all for the sake of fame and fortune. Those who made it onto the Hidden Dragon list were considered renowned throughout the world, and how could many people remain unmoved by that? Therefore, whenever the half-yearly announcement day of the Hidden Dragon list approached, it was the busiest time for Tianji building. This time was no exception. From early in the morning, many martial artists were already staking out the branches of Tianji building in every state and county, all eager to get the first look at the list. Among them, there were spies sent by various major sects as well. Then, when the list was posted, everyone was shocked, because a name they were completely unfamiliar with had appeared. Lu Qing from Tsang State. Who is this person? And how come I've never heard of them? Just at the initial realm of the internal organs, yet ranked 29th, ahead of numerous martial arts grandmasters? A 17-year-old martial artist in the internal organ realm. Which sect from Tsang State has cultivated such a core disciple? Almost everyone was captivated by the name Lu Qing on the list. Couldn't be helped. The information displayed on the list was simply too astonishing. A 17-year-old martial artist at the initial realm of the internal organs, making his first appearance on the Hidden Dragon list ranked 29th, ahead of numerous martial arts grandmasters. Any of these details, when applied to any other martial artist, would already be remarkable. Now all concentrated on one individual, these details delivered a real shock to the people. So much so that some even doubted whether Tianji building had made a mistake in their information. Not to mention anything else, but how could a martial artist at the initial realm of the internal organs rank ahead of so many martial arts grandmasters? Faced with skepticism, Tianji building quickly responded. The ranking was correct, and the information on the list was also entirely accurate. There was no need to worry about errors. The credibility of Tianji building was still very much guaranteed. Since they claimed there was no mistake, it must indeed be true. As a result, after Tianji building's response came out, the martial artists of the world were truly astounded. There was actually such a young prodigy in the world, able to enter the ranks of the Hidden Dragon list at the age of 17. Which sect had nurtured such an extraordinary genius? Many sect forces couldn't help but develop a strong interest. But to try to get information from Tianji building? Forget about it. Tianji building had introduced the Hidden Dragon list over 1,000 years ago, and had never disclosed more than some simple information about those on the list. If they wanted to find out who this Lu Qing really was, they would have to investigate on their own. For a time, countless forces set out to send people to Tsang State to investigate. Of course, not all powers were completely ignorant of Lu Qing. In Qingyun's sword pavilion of Jizhou, in a small building, several elders were sitting opposite each other. A list was placed on the table in front of them, clearly the Hidden Dragon list. Lu Qing from Tsang State, one of the bearded old men, looking at the name on the list, fell into thought. Then he asked, "A few days ago, didn't Ming Jian and the others encounter a young prodigy while out for experience, who also seemed to be named Lu Qing in Tsang State?" "That's right," another elder with short hair nodded. "And they also said that this young prodigy's martial arts talent was astonishingly brilliant. Rumor has it that, with a perfect bones and muscle status, he had defeated a martial arts grandmaster, and they even witnessed with their own eyes how he, with his bare fists, captured a heavenly gang assassin from the Seven Killings Tower, Heavenly Orphan, within several dozen breaths. This is so unbelievable that when I first received the letter, I thought Ming Jian and the others were deceived, listening to rumors, and I was quite angry. But after carefully questioning the disciple who brought back the letter, I found that it seemed not to be a rumor, but indeed a fact. Coincidentally, just the other day, the Seven Killings order was issued by Seven Killings Tower, seeking to hunt someone by the name of Lu Qing. Thus, it can be seen that what Ming Jian and others reported was not false. Letting the Seven Killings order be issued must be no mistake. The Lu Qing they spoke of must be the same one on the Hidden Dragon list. The bearded elder nodded. The same name and surname, both in Tsang State, and both young prodigies. Such coincidences couldn't possibly exist in the world. The bearded elder at once confirmed that the Lu Qing on the hidden dragon list and the one mentioned in the sect disciples' communication were the same person. Considering this, his heart grew even more astonished. A 17-year-old in the internal organ realm with perfect bones and muscles, defeating a martial arts grandmaster. I did not expect such an exceptional genius to exist in this world. No wonder Tianji Building ranked him on the hidden dragon list. Such a naturally gifted genius, if not qualified to be on the hidden dragon list, then hardly anyone in the world would qualify. It's just a wonder which sect force could have cultivated such a young prodigy. According to what Ming Jian said in the letter, this Lu Qing's mentorship is very mysterious, only knowing that his master is a mysterious figure from the innate realm. But that day at Wei Mansion they had no chance to meet him, said the elder with short hair. An unknown innate realm expert. Who could it be? The bearded elder wondered. Chapter 240 Renowned throughout the world, the madman _2. Unfortunately, Ming Jian and his companions have not yet returned from their travels. Otherwise, we could ask them in detail about the situation at that time. The information in the letter was limited, and many details could not be conveyed thoroughly. Thus, they were unable to obtain more information. Since this Lu Qing already has a master, we shouldn't inquire too much and risk causing their displeasure, said the bearded old man after some thought. The presence of an innate realm master clearly suggested that considerable power backed him. If they probed too deeply and caused displeasure, creating unnecessary enemies, it would be a loss not worth the gain. Thus, after a brief discussion, the bearded old man decided to put the matter aside for the time being. Today, in addition to the hidden dragon list, I have called you here for a more crucial matter concerning the millennial change. As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of the elders immediately turned solemn. Sect Master, is the millennial change really upon us? Asked a thin elder, unable to contain himself. Judging by the recent movements of various sects over the years, it seems indisputable, replied the bearded old man seriously. This matter relates to the future glory of our sword pavilion, and we cannot afford any negligence. But what exactly is this millennial change, and how do we address it if its nature is still unclear to us? Another elder asked. What the millennial change entails is probably only known to the 4 great secret places, and ancient sects like Tianji Building and Seven Killings Tower, which have endured for millennia. Unfortunately, our sword pavilion's heritage is still somewhat lacking. But even without knowing the cause, we cannot just sit and wait. We must do something, lamented the bearded old man. The other elders also fell into silence. The feeling of knowing that a major change was imminent, yet not knowing the reasons, was truly frustrating. Suddenly, one elder said, "How about we consult Junior Master? With his extensive knowledge and experience, he surely knows some inside information." With these words, the expressions of all the elders changed abruptly, becoming somewhat unnatural. It seemed that the previous suggestion had mentioned a particularly special individual, whom they all greatly feared. However, they also knew that it was a viable suggestion. If anyone knew some secrets, it would indeed be him. After all, this individual had once dared to desecrate the grave of the founder of their sect in his quest for answers. Yet, thinking of Junior Master's temperament made everyone hesitate. With his hatred towards the sect, would he truly be willing to help? After a while, the bearded old man finally sighed. "Let me go. Junior Master was fondest of me back in the day. Perhaps, in consideration of our past affinity, he will be willing to disclose some information. After all, he also grew up here." A quarter of an hour later, the bearded old man, carrying a bamboo basket, appeared on a cliff behind the sword pavilion. Beside the cliff, there was a half-man-high small cave entrance, dark and deep, its destination unknown. This place was a forbidden area of the sect. Apart from the sect master and a few supreme elders, no one else was allowed near. The bearded old man hesitated at the entrance for a moment, then ultimately bowed and entered. After walking about 10 steps inside the cave, it suddenly opened up. The cave walls were spacious and tall, allowing him to walk upright. Following the passage for a while, he suddenly heard the sound of water ahead. After turning a bend, a vast cave chamber appeared before him. Light filtered from above, giving a faint illumination to the cave. Inside was also a small pond with flowing water. The bearded old man ignored the scenery and walked directly to the cave wall beside the pond. Bowing respectfully, he said, "Greetings, Junior Master." Except for the sound of flowing water, no other sound echoed in the cave. After a while, a hoarse voice finally spoke up. "I wondered who it was. It turns out to be our sect master. How so? Leaving your sword pavilion and coming to see this old man in his twilight years?" A look of embarrassment flashed across the bearded old man's face. "It's my nephew's fault, managing sect affairs all these years. I have not been able to find the time to pay my respects to Junior Master." "Pay respects? That sounds nice," the voice said sarcastically. "But wasn't it you, our esteemed sect master, who imprisoned me here in the first place? Why bother putting on such an act now? Junior Master, although my nephew failed you in the past, I do not regret what I did," the bearded old man said firmly. "The disaster you caused back then was too great. If we did not give the other party an explanation, the entire sword pavilion would have been destroyed in no time. As the sect master, I had to prioritize the sect. I had no choice but to wrong you, Junior Master. So back then, you used my trust in you to secretly poison me, strip away all my cultivation, and imprison me in this dark place without sunlight?" The voice spoke emotionlessly. "Junior Master's cultivation was profound. We were no match for you in a direct confrontation. We could only resort to such a stratagem. It was my fault, Junior Master. If you hold resentment in your heart, I accept any reproach you may have." The voice was silent for a while before suddenly sighing. Forget it. Why bring up these matters? My cultivation is already gone. It's all a moot point now, being just a cripple. Tell me, why have you come this time?" "Indeed, nothing can be hidden from Junior Master. It's not hard to guess. Ever since you imprisoned me here, you youngsters have been feeling guilty and dared not face me. You wouldn't visit without a reason. So why have you come?" "That's because we feel guilty towards Junior Master, truly ashamed to face you." "Enough with the nonsense, what is it really?" the voice said impatiently. "It's like this, Junior Master." The bearded old man organized his thoughts before continuing. "In recent years, strange phenomena have been appearing frequently around the world. The top sects are acting unusually, as if they are plotting something. We have tried our best to investigate, but to no avail. We only accidentally learned that Tianji Building once stated that a great change is imminent in 1,000 years. A transformation in heaven and earth is coming, conflicts and chaos will arise. But what exactly this great change entails and what calamity it will bring, we still could not figure out. Junior Master, with your extensive knowledge and profound learning, do you possibly know the inside story? What did you say? A great change in 1,000 years is coming?" Unexpectedly, when the voice heard this, it suddenly became agitated. Followed by the clashing sound of iron chains, a figure suddenly sat up from the bottom of the cave. It turned out the person speaking with the bearded old man had been lying there all along. Due to the dimness of the cave and the dirtiness of his clothing, blending into the color of the cave walls, it was initially unnoticeable. "Little Jiangwen, what you said is true. A great change in 1,000 years is coming?" The person was emotionally agitated, and under the trembling of his body, the sound of iron chains came again. His body was indeed bound by several iron chains as thick as a small arm, tied near the cave wall. "This is the news my nephew heard from Tianji Building. It should not be wrong. Ha ha ha. To think that such a day would finally arrive. I have finally waited for this day. Over 200 years of waiting. Heaven, you old thief. You can't wear me down after all." That figure laughed heartily, seeming mad. "Junior Master, you obviously know something, right?" Seeing this, the bearded old man instantly understood what was happening and said joyfully, "Of course I know, how could I possibly not know? If not for this secret, how would I have ended up in this situation?" The voice of the figure was still crazed. "Junior Master, since you know the reason, please enlighten us." You want to know what the great change in 1,000 years actually entails? The figure asked. Please enlighten us, Junior Master. Then let's make a deal. Beneath the chaotic hair of the figure, a strange smile appeared.